Okay, let's go. They're late. Pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You're almost late. Lisa, are you here? Here. Lori? Here. Jeremiah?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Chuck?
Here.
Tanya?
Here.
Linda, yes, here. Take a look at the agenda. Anybody have any additions to that, Mr. Ludwigson? The regular agenda?
Did you get signed up on the guest list?
I have, right.
I talked to Jenny, yeah.
I shouldn't have anything.
Okay, then I need a motion to accept the agenda as it is.
A motion.
Lori?
I'll second it. You can give it to Chuck.
No. Jeremiah did it. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, I have two guests. Kaylee, you want to go first? Yep. Grab it. Okay.
Who reaches?
So we are here today to just update you all on our Unified Special Olympics program. So this is kind of a slide that I have already in the school bulletin. It is just to inform you all on that we are hosting our very first Unified track event here at the Thunder Stadium. So we're very excited about it. Emily and Tori here have been part of Special Olympics with us in the past, so I will also show a little bit about that as well. So we invited, next slide here. So we invited Little Falls, Staples Motley, and Osakis, plus our school, to be part of it. So Special Olympics has changed how they are doing events, and so they're focusing on smaller, more unified events. So we don't have our students do the sports physicals to participate right now, just because it opens up the door to more participants, and it's a little less work, honestly, on the back end to just have fun at these events instead of it being so competitive to get to state. Opening a ceremony is going to be at about 9:45. So we have students who are going to be singing the national anthem, and then we will have students who do the Special Olympics oath as well, and then we'll have events happening. So something fun, Jeremiah has offered to help with that, so he is going to be there as well. So that's pretty fun. And we have a community member who just got approved today to be a volunteer, and then we have Mike Evans, who's coming back, and he's going to be volunteering that day as well as one of our parents, and otherwise we have student volunteers. So I'm going to kind of pass it off to these girls, and they can kind of go over what we did at Winter Carnival. So,
yeah, we were doing a bunch of activities with the kids. We did snowmobiles, dog sledding. There was some soccer and stuff on the ice. It was very fun. We were able to be involved with that.
yeah. And overall, the Winter Carnival was a great opportunity for us just to form some camaraderie and just to develop the friendships between our unified partners and our athletes. So like the numbers are up there, so we had 16 students total go. 12 of those were unified athletes and 4 of them were partners. So in the future, we're hoping to have a 1-to-1 partner to athlete ratio. So as we get more into this, this is my second year, so I was focusing more on hosting an event, which I think is gonna be pretty well received by all who attend. We put a lot of work into coordinating volunteers. Emily and I have worked together on making sure that we have our Google form all set up, and really looking forward to it. So, any questions for us?
Are you looking for any more donations for the event?
So we right now are working with the Lions Club, and Michelle Hallinan contacted them for some donations for covering the cost of concession stands, so we can have a small concession stand open at the event. Otherwise, we're really sitting pretty good. We do have a centralized account with Special Olympics that we did a very good fundraiser for last year. We did not do fundraising this year just because that last year's fundraiser was so well, and we haven't needed to use school funds to support our program. And so I'm pretty impressed with that aspect as well. So.
Nice, good job.
What did you learn about poaching?
Yeah. One of the stations you could you could feel all the different furs and things like that. There was a lot of interest in identifying what the different furs were that they had. Overall, poaching's bad, basically. So. Any other questions?
What are some of the events you're gonna be having on May 6th?
Yeah, so we are going to be having traditional relays. So we will have a unified relay and a traditional relay. So unified means that possibly Emily here will be running along with one of or 2 of our students. And then we do have a traditional relay, so that means it's all just unified athletes who will be running that. So we are practicing that in our DAPE class, and if they're not in DAPE, which is the adaptive phy-ed, we are able to pull them from their study halls and practice the baton toss, or handoff I should say. And then we are doing long jump, and then we have tennis ball throw and softball throw, and then other various running events. I'm not sure if we will have any adaptive like wheelchair events or walker events. I meet with our Special Olympics representative on Wednesday via Google Meet, and then we'll finalize what the schedule looks like. Any other questions?
You're praying for no snow, right?
Well, yes, historically, this event has been around this date in Pillager, and it's just gotten so big for Pillager, they're taking a step back, and so, like I said, we are hosting this year, and historically it has been raining, and cold, so we are really hoping that we will not have that this year, so, yeah. And I hope to be fully recovered from this walking pneumonia situation I have. I'm supposed to be the one who's talking the whole time, so hopefully that's all taken care of too. Okay. All right, I'm gonna pass it off to the girls here. They have some student council updates for you guys, so I'm just gonna unhook this.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So we have the color run coming up on May 8th, which is a really good opportunity for the elementary kids to get out, have fun, and play games. I know we have a bunch of students being paired with classrooms. I know it's mostly the juniors and seniors doing that. And then
There's gonna be games, so like the sophomores and under are gonna be running the games while everybody else is going through the color run.
And they do vary for like ages, so there's ones for the much younger kids like the parachute, like much easier tag games, and then for older kids there's more soccer and like a little more complex games. And then the other update we have is our new officers coming up with our president being McKenna Coltis. Then vice president is Brianna Lux. Then our treasurer is Addison Young. And secretary, and our treasurer is Kylie Kraska. Do you have any questions?
How was prom Saturday?
Good, but very long.
Very long.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah,
Dresses were beautiful, by the way.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the girls?
How many days till graduation?
Oh, 24.
Yep.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Oh, you'll miss us.
All right.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then I think we go back up to the solar grant. I believe Ideal Energies. Hi, Ideal, how are you?
Pretty good. Got a little handout here for everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, Rich.
All right. So thank you for giving me the time to come up here and talk about this Solar for Schools grant. My name is Rich Ragatz from Ideal Energies. Our company's been around for 16 years, and we've done about 700 projects to date, 230 projects with schools, and 91 projects with Solar for Schools customers. In the first 8 rounds, in round 9, we have 17 projects that we're working on, and you're one of the 17 projects. And the good news for people that wait, in the round number 9, 100% of the cost is given to you by a grant from the Department of Commerce and a direct pay tax credit. And I'll kind of go through that as we walk through the presentation here. So I just kind of gave you a little bit about our company. We're vertically integrated. We have everything to do this in-house. Really focused on the school space. Onto the next page, this is just a list of some of the schools we've done. Here's showing you a roof-mounted array, but yours is going to be a ground-mounted array, and I'll get into more detail as we get along in this. The next page is another more comprehensive list of all the school customers. We have Park Rapids, Grand Rapids, and Little Falls. All 3 of those we're going to be doing ground-mounted solar arrays for when the weather turns a little better, probably early summer here. And then onto this next page, this shows you where we're looking to do the ground-mounted array. That's in that geothermal field. There's a few questions that Daniel forwarded to me that I incorporated here. You can see that we have a 50-foot setback from the west side of that solar array. That's the area where you guys like to plow snow in the wintertime. And then on the right side there, the east, we also have a 33-foot easement for the power line that goes through there. And we can make it a little longer and skinnier if we want to have a little more buffer, but we should be plenty good for space to do this. And that's an area really, we have above ground racking that we're going to use that's not going to go in and affect the geothermal field.
So this 324, is that per day?
That's the kilowatt hour DC size of the array, and that's based on kind of maximizing the grant and the.
Well, kind of like per day, I mean, is that kind of a rough estimate of like, what will it put out like per day?
Produce.
Do you have that later?
Yeah, it's on the.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on the next page.
Okay.
We can just go to the next page. So the next page, we're talking about, this will create 365,063 kilowatt hours annually. So you're looking at about 1,000 kilowatt hours daily on average. And based on your current rate plan, in year 1, you're going to look at $29,960 worth of energy savings based on your rate plan with Minnesota Power. And I'll go on to the next sheet here. This is kind of showing you the sources and uses and how it kind of flows through the program. So there's, again, this total cost is going to be $713,900. And you can see on the funding sources, you get a $499,730 from the Solar for Schools, and then you get a $204,345. That's a direct pay tax credit from the Federal Department of Treasury. And you can see that there's $9,800 here out of the operating budget. That is based on having a fence with the solar array. That's not a qualified project cost for doing the ground mount. So that's something that we're hoping that that'll be able to be funded through the Solar for Schools grant. If not, that would be something that you guys would have to pay for, and we could figure out how to do that.
Insurance wants the fence. What's that? Insurance wants the fence.
Yeah, insurance will, you'll have to get a rider on your insurance policy, and we have a lot of history with that, and that shouldn't cost you too much.
No, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was minimal, like provided that you have the fence to help minimize vandalism.
Yep, you know, we've, with our, we've done, what, 230 projects for schools. We haven't had any of them vandalized by kids up there. So it rarely happens. Maybe it would happen with a ground mount, but yeah, that's why you have insurance. And so this is just kind of showing you, based on the program, how the dollars would flow. But in the end, you guys would basically have a system paid for by those two sources, the grant from the Solar for Schools, Department of Commerce, and a direct pay tax credit. Okay, on to the next page. So what we did, we had a readiness application that we submitted March 2nd. We were supposed to hear April 2nd whether or not you guys got funds, but because of the history with this, I believe you guys will get definitely get funding for this, especially how we put it together. And so any day now, we'll find out that you guys got grant approval. We're in progress with the electrical and working with Minnesota Power in terms of interconnection agreement. That's something that's needed for the next obligation that's out there, which is the full grant application. That's due July 2nd, 2026, and we'll help put everything together to get that in so you get final grant approval and we can move forward with the project. A couple things as part of the program. You have to use this somehow, some way in your education curriculum. For the last over 10 years, we've been providing kind of modules that are up to the 3 current learning standards that can be incorporated. You can use some, all, none of it if you want to. The other thing is we have a monitoring platform that's a web-based portal. You can have that on your website or a screen in the lobby or somewhere, or have the kids have access to it. It's kind of cool. There's a little more detail further along in the presentation, but it shows you how much energy was created daily, weekly, monthly, annually. There's some cool, how much CO2 was saved, how many trees were saved, you know, stuff like that that they can learn about. And that needs to be, you know, put on the web. Most of our customers put it on their website with the link so people can get on there and check it out. So then, again, this is how we're doing it. It's basically 100% paid for. We'll help you work through and get the direct pay tax credit from the IRS. That's a little complicated, but we've done it many a times. And the system we're talking about has a 30-year panel warranty. And you have a rider on your insurance, so it'll be, you know, working for a long time. And then we'll also provide operations and maintenance for the first 5 years to make sure it's working properly.
You come out to fix them? If one would break, you would come out and fix them?
Yes, we have 2 people that are dedicated for our operations and maintenance. And we actually operate and maintain over 400 systems around the state. So lots of schools, cities, counties, and nonprofits.
We have them on our house, so.
Okay.
You know, and like we had a hailstorm, baseball size hail, and no panels even broke.
That's
which
great.
is nice,
Yeah,
so.
for sure. And we have a lot of history with, all over the state, so we know the panels that should be used that are much more resistant to hail. So,
You have operations and maintenance years 1 to 5, what happens in year 6 beyond?
if you wanted us to continue, we'd continue doing that for you.
Okay, then there would be a fee to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you typically know how much that fee is?
Yeah, it's around like $1,500, something like that,
Yearly or?
annually, yeah. So it's not a whole big, you're looking at about 30,000 of energy savings, so it's, $1,500 or 30,000. Yeah, go ahead.
You brought up saving how many trees and teach the kids that, but where do you dispose of these panels when they are no longer in use?
Well, good question. There's no hazardous materials in the panels. And actually now over the last 5 years, there's been many firms that have been created that actually would come out and pay you for the panels. And they'll recycle them for the rare earth metals that are in them. So they'll pay you $7 to $10 a panel. And they also have a production warranty, so after 30 years, you have a warranty claim if they're not still producing 85% of what was told up front. So you're still, after 30 years, they're still producing 85% of what they did day one. So you're probably gonna have a 40-year life with these, believe it or not.
What's the brand?
Well, I'm not certain what the brand of the panel is. We've been using Silfab with the new foreign entity of concern stuff that's out there. You have to have certain panels that meet the domestic content.
Where are they made? I mean, I guess.
Well, one of them is in Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay. And that's what you would have here?
Yeah.
Where are your panels coming from?
Well, we have some that we get from Jacksonville, Florida. There's some actually in Minnesota here up in the Iron Range that are also available.
That's what I'm getting at, are they domestically made? Are we running into politics and, as you know, there's a lot of politics involved in solar panels nowadays, where they're produced, how they get into this country, the big tariffs that are being applied to them? That's the questions I'm getting at.
Yeah, there's a lot of tariff craziness out there, but we actually have stuff in our inventory that we can use for this that's not, subject to any of that. And we've kind of taken the chaos out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then on to the next page. Here's again, the solar curriculum. I mentioned it's up to the 3 current learning standards in the state. Kind of some cool stuff that kids, we have 5th and 6th grade science is one of the targeted areas that we have modules for, and then we have also something for kind of the high schoolers. Good way for them to learn about renewable energy. And then this next page shows you what we're doing in terms of the monitoring platform.
Do you have your own monitoring platform, or do you?
No, this is through SolarEdge, which is the most popular inverter in the world.
Sunstrong is the one we have, Sunstrong,
Oh, no, we don't have
the
that.
one we have.
Uh-huh.
Which, it has all
All the
the,
same stuff,
trees and how many trees and how many
Yeah.
gallons of fuel you saved and,
right?
so.
Yeah. So you can see down in the bottom right corner here, that's the 2 of the things they show, the CO2 emissions saved and the equivalent trees planted.
So it's called SolarEdge?
Yeah, SolarEdge. And then on to the next page. I'm looking to get an approval to continue to proceed with this application. And we'd work on getting a full interconnection application done with Minnesota Power, submit the full grant application, and gear up for a project for either later on this fall or spring of next year.
How long does it take you once you start to finish the project?
Be a couple months.
Okay.
And we can work around whatever's going on at the school district in terms of, all of the stuff we're doing. Very, very flexible. Won't be disruptive.
And how many panels are there? Did we have that in here somewhere?
I don't have the number of panels, but there's probably 300 or 400.
Okay.
Does it interfere with anything that we have going with Minnesota Power? I mean, do we buy bulk power from them and therefore what we get from you?
So Minnesota Power's been involved for quite some time, and we actually be eligible for some rebates. So, jump in, but they've been working with me on the process every time. And so they've done a few energy audits. They provided you guys a lot of your information.
Yeah, they're easy to work with. Paul over there's a great guy. We've done a number of projects with Minnesota Power.
Is there any concern with reflection off of these for the houses that are behind them? As far as glare going into the houses or anything like that?
No, I don't see that because if you look at the picture, the panels will be directly south facing and they're at a 30-degree pitch, so you're really not gonna get reflection that's gonna affect the houses. And all panels these days are made with anti-glare technology, so even we put them on condominiums in northeast Minneapolis, and so we wanna make sure that there's no glare for other condominiums and places that are around there, and hasn't been an issue.
Going back to the price breakdown here, you have $499,000 as a grant, then the remaining 30% of that $204,000 that you said would come from another source. Is that a reimbursement source where we have to pay up front and then we get reimbursed? Or do you guys just wait to receive that $204,000 directly from the source?
Yeah, you would pay up front.
So we would have to pay the $204,000 up front and then get reimbursed for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens, tornado comes through, how stable are your ground stands for wind and things like that in that situation where strong winds would come through, will they stand up to, what type of wind will they stand up to, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, it depends on your wind loads up here, but we have a structural engineer on staff that's done thousands of projects for us over the years. And he'll factor in the local snow and wind loads, and we'll have to engineer it for those. But I can tell you, if you remember back in 2011, there was a tornado that went through Minneapolis and Fridley and the cities. We had 3 solar arrays on a building, Murphy Warehouse. It's a big third-party logistics company. And the solar arrays on the roof didn't move an inch. And a tornado overturned rail cars, semis, and the system itself just sat there. So they're really built to withstand some pretty heavy-duty winds, and if they don't, that's why you have the rider on your insurance policy.
Is there grass left in between these that have to be maintained, or does it get turned completely to a grass or gravel, asphalt, rock surface? What happens?
Yeah, there'll be some growth there that you'll probably need to weed whip on occasion, but it's not gonna be like high-growing stuff.
Okay.
So you said this array would pretty much go over our wells right now that we have?
In between the wells,
In between the wells?
Yeah.
So would, eventually those wells will need to be replaced, even though we just replaced them now. So, but in 30 years from now, then how would that affect that well replacement?
Well, depending on what you do, you can move the panels
So to get to the wells, we may have to move panels.
potentially, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And do you come in and do all that?
What's that?
Do you come in and move the panels then, or is that part of our $1,500, if we?
No, that would be a separate thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the figure of kilowatt hours produced?
That's based on this longitude.
These obviously don't put out any power when we have, 200 days of clouds and snow and everything else, right?
Yep.
Yep, they do not produce power then, right?
Well, in the wintertime, ground mounts are better because the panels are at a 30-degree pitch, but
Melt off.
we do mostly roof-mounted stuff, and the roof mount is at a 10-degree pitch. So at a 10-degree pitch on a roof, you're going to have a lot of snow sit on top of those panels. With the ground mount, you're going to have a lot less snow that sits on there because it'll slough off easier. But we factored in that and especially like December and January, you have very little production because the sun is so low on the horizon. You have shorter days, so you only have like 1 or 2% of your energy created in each of those months. And so
That's all factored in.
it's all factored in. There's a program we use called Helioscope, and they use weather data that's from this longitude and latitude, and we know based on experience what it's going to do.
They have a shelf life, right? I mean, I noticed the production tapers off as they age, right?
Yeah, they get a little less productive, which is degradation, and it goes down by 0.5% every year. And so we factored that into the production, that it gets a little less productive each year as part of it.
How come our savings increase if our production goes down?
Well, because the utility continues to increase rates. Minnesota Power increased rates by 10% last year. And with the AI influence, all the stuff going on, you're going to see pretty dramatic increases. It's a good way to hedge against it as a school district.
That makes sense. This question may be more towards Dan. But during the summer, obviously, we're not going to be using as much electricity because we won't have students and such inside the building. Are we allowed to sell back then to Minnesota Power?
Well, the good news is with Minnesota Power, they're one of the good utilities where you can do annual banking. So those kilowatt hours sit on your bill as a credit. So you're not selling them back to the utility at wholesale and buying them for retail. So you're getting the good benefit for them.
So really then during the summer, we'd be banking those kilowatt hours.
Yes.
So then our payment, so that it all kind of averages out throughout the year. Then.
Yeah, and that's why we sized it, two reasons we sized it the way we did. First of all, we wanted to, use all of the grant. And we didn't want to go over in terms of what as long as you use all that you consume, you're not going to sell it for wholesale and pay retail for it.
Okay.
And construction would not proceed, or you would stop proceeding if for some reason both grants aren't approved?
Correct. Yeah, this would be contingent on grants being approved and you getting a fully energized system.
I'm not an electrical engineer, but for my own curiosity, you're generating DC off of those panels. How does that get converted into AC for us to run our building?
Yeah, we have inverters that that's the Solar Edge is the inverter. I don't know, we'll probably have 2 or 3 inverters as part of this. And what they do is they take the DC created energy and convert it to AC. So you can either use it on site or it goes back to the grid.
Okay. There's no storage involved in this.
No storage.
Either used locally or put back on the grid.
Yep, and what they do is they put, Minnesota Power will put in a bidirectional meter so that if you're not using it and it goes back, it spins backwards and they keep track of it.
Do you know the turnaround rate for the reimbursement then for that 30%? If we have to pay the $204 up front?
Yeah, it's about 90 days.
Okay.
What are you looking for from us tonight? Approval to go ahead with this? or-
Yeah, I guess approval contingent on the grant to just keep proceeding with the application at this point, right?
Yeah, and what we want to do is, I think that I'd like to be back in front of you when we get all of it, we get the interconnection done, all of the details done, so we can show you kind of a fully baked, this is pretty much baked, we think this will be exactly what it is. But then we'll have all the details after we kind of do all of our due diligence and get everything back from them so that I can come back with a fully baked, hey, let's move forward with exactly this.
What do you mean, like, what the grant ends up verifying? Cause we got kind of a, like, give us this and this kind of letter back, and that's, and so like kind of final stamp of approval, right?
Yeah. So we haven't gotten the readiness application approved, even though we got an email basically saying that you need to do these things to make it perfect, and then we'll give you the readiness grant. But yeah, so we want to get kind of a few steps done and make sure that what we're telling is exactly what's going to happen. Then I'll come back and ask for formal final approval.
So, approval to continue with the grant process with Ideal Energy coming back upon full approval of the grant update, right?
Yeah.
Has it cost us anything yet?
No.
And it won't until we have an approval.
What's that?
It won't until we have an approval of the grant.
Correct.
I guess I would make the motion to allow you to continue on with the grant application and taking steps forward to complete it up until everything's completed, and then you have to come back to us and make a final decision.
I'll second it. Okay, great questions, everybody. Is there any more discussion we need to have?
I mean, we just got this information, I would feel way more comfortable making sure that we're approved before we,
We aren't making the final decision.
no, but before we say, yes, we'll even go on, I just wanna make sure.
We kind of got an email from the
Yeah, we got something earlier.
Solar for School.
Kind of got an email.
Well, no, you did get an email and they wanted clarification, and there's quite a history here in knowing that you guys will be approved for this grant.
I'm just saying, I would feel more comfortable if I knew we were approved before I mean, that's a pretty big decision to make, I think.
That's why you want to come back.
Yeah, that's why I want to come back. So I want a thumbs up from you guys, continue to do what you're doing, and then I'll come back with a fully baked, here is exactly what we're doing. Would you like to move forward?
This is no commitment of funds at this point.
Correct.
To move forward, continue on with the process.
Really more so shows the grant that like we're still interested, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, any more discussion? Any more? Now I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Take a roll call vote then. Tom,
Yes.
Tanya,
No.
Lisa,
No.
Lori,
Yes.
Jeremiah,
Yep.
Chuck,
Aye.
Linda, aye. Motion carries 5-2. All right.
Thank you very much. I look forward to coming back and giving you some good news.
Thanks, Rich.
Sounds good. Is this one thing that maybe we ask Russ to come in and talk to us about? What he
Right.
thinks?
I could probably talk him into it. Me and him have worked on it. This is the third year in a row we've worked on it. So we've done various site visits, so I'm sure if I spoke to him, because I had Russell call Rich before this to ask some of those questions about snow removal and different things. And like, send me questions, because you guys want answers. And you can talk about it here and people can watch what the answers are. So, yeah. Feel free to send me more questions and I'll work on having answers.
I think it would be good to have Russ come and just give his opinion, what he thinks, don't you? Anybody? Okay, maybe next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming, drive safe. Next on the line is the consent agenda. I would need anybody want anything pulled off of there, to talk about? And I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Down to reports. Activities. She's here today. Woo-hoo. Any questions for Kelsey?
So while Kelsey is here, like when we get to the budget streamlining stuff, there's some stuff that pertains to activities. And I sent some of it ahead of time. Well, I think all this stuff is gonna talk about now, but like, we're taking a look at like a 20% reduction in games dependent on, we're on that 17 game marker, give or take.
So we're looking at 20% reduction for activities that have 20 to 26 events. So that would bring, pending the sport, would bring it down to either 17 to 21, keeping everybody in that range, and then reducing the amount of junior high events from 14 down to 10 to 12.
And that isn't written in stone yet, right?
No.
Okay, so we're just talking about it. So if you got any questions and stuff, there's an answer person, and there's an answer person over here. So,
And we will take a look at participation versus staffing, but nothing on that's been like nailed down, but that's where you would start it, you have to make reductions.
and that kind of doesn't, it affects kids, but it doesn't pull a teacher out of a classroom, so they have 30 kids in a class instead of 25. I mean, that's kind of a way that you make that without too seriously damaging things.
Does that do anything like to the, the varsity, the other teams that you are, would you have to play teams that have the exact same schedule, like the amount of games?
No. No, I just wouldn't schedule, not really, I would just try and make it home and away, about even like I do right now. It would kind of affect like our QRF, which is where, like how our section seating gets determined, because we wouldn't have as many games. But that's just kind of part of it. I don't think we'll be the only school having to do this.
How much money would that save?
Haven't got that far yet.
We're gonna take a look at our transportation costs from this year and then kind of ballpark it on a 20% reduction on those games. That's how we're estimated.
So you're still working on it?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions for Kelsey?
How does the bound new system go?
It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna, I mean, it's a all-in-one stop shop, so instead of 47 team reaches I'm a part of, it's can all be through Bound, and coaches can be in control of their roster, so I don't have to like go into our system and upload things, they can just do it from their phone. It'll send like families physical updates, so like if a student's physical is out or has to be redone in 6 months, it'll send a reminder that it's about to be out of date, and then again in 3 months, and then at however many weeks. So it'll have some cool features to it, it's just a matter of learning them and having the coaches learn them too. But I'm excited about it, and then for co-ops, I'm gonna use hockey for one. So like we're the lead school for girls hockey, so they can put all of our schools into the system as one. So like whenever I make an update, their website will update. So like when Sauk Center puts in a change for boys hockey, ours will automatically update too. So that will be great. Yeah. Should be good.
Anything else for Kelsey? Okay, on to the next, community ed. Mr. Brad. No questions for Brad?
Did you hear any more about VUK?
Yeah, we did hear, we know that we're in the process. I talked to Lisa Wickett, or meeting with Lisa, we're in the process, and we're hoping to know, hoping to streamline the situation, so we would know by May. That's what, end of May, that's kind of where we're at, but she said they also have told her that in the past, so it's just kind of waiting. We did do some, her and I sat down and what changes we would need to make in order to make those minutes, regardless of what we did. And then we also have some kind little bit of contingency, I've been working with Tammy about, okay, if we have this and we need a room, where are we going? And it worked out nice because she's gonna, sounds like special ed is gonna go into the ALC, you guys know about that? So that we would be able to actually take the room that they were in, and that has an office nearby, so there'd be an office for that person, utilize some of that stuff, so.
There is a bathroom in that room too, right?
No, there isn't. None of the facilities that we have are going to be able to have a bathroom. The only one that has a bathroom right now are the kindergarten classes, and then the only other way we could do that is if we would move one of we'd have to move, probably have to move Head Start out, so.
I thought Erica's classroom.
Well, yeah, down there, but we're not,
You're not going there.
no, that's where the special ed, I think, is going. I think, yeah, I don't fully find on that.
ALC?
But ALC.
Yeah, I know that's what's been discussed. I mean, Mrs. Shabila has been going through that space, currently pretty optimistic about it being able to comfortably convert for that purpose.
Will it take much to convert it?
She's not seeing a lot that would require a lot of TLC, so initial impressions are good.
And then the other thing that does go with BPK is there is money allotted where you can do updates to your building, which is kind of nice. That's one of the things that BPK does have built in, so you can apply for those construction grants. And I know people have been fairly successful doing that. So if we wanted to, we could see if we could add a bathroom or you know, as far as new shelving or having lockers put in or whatever it is, there is some money available for that. And Lisa and I have talked about what that would look like. So there's the other option would be is to move the current group out of that, but that's a problem because he also has 3-year-olds, so I mean it's a little bit tougher for a 3-year-old to make his bathroom than a 4-year-old, so that's kind of what we're aiming on. We will make it, so I think we have it under control, we've been meeting regularly, and like I said, hopefully we'll find something out, and I'm sure then the ball will really roll downhill once we find it.
One other quick question, yes or no? You hear anything about 21st century?
I was just, that's one of the reasons I went to a conference that I went down to, which actually we had in 21st century and another grant in UA and I, they were all together in that space. And I asked them, and it has basically been sealed up in red tape, so they're waiting. They are really hoping for the end of this. There's some state people that are putting pressure on the people to try to give us an answer for that. But it's a federal thing, so it's just round up. Nobody has received any funds. I did ask that question, I said, well, at some schools, only the people that were funded the last time, which was 3 years ago, and they still have 3 years left on the grant, that's the only people who received any funds in the state of Minnesota. So all the funds have been basically frozen. So they have not had any, they have asked several times, and there's a lot of upheaval right now in the federal government. So with the education department, I should say. So that's one of the reasons I went down there is because they were giving an update on that. It was just as clear as mud, so anyway.
Crazy.
Sorry about that.
Any more questions for Brad?
Brad, how come you didn't offer a packing plant tour in the latest bulletin? I had a lot of interest in that.
Because they will only allow us to be in there on certain dates.
Okay.
And so what they do is so we took a packing plant tour, which we had 15 people go on, and it's very interesting. I would highly suggest if you want to see what happens in our community to go on that. I would say what you say, try it. But they will only allow us, they can only do so many, what's it, I can't remember the name, but like, it's the federal, or whatever they do, only allows so many per week or whatever, and then what we have to do is we have to fit in between the commercial ones that they're actually doing for people that are actually buying stuff. So
I spread the word, I got a lot of interest in it, and it didn't show up.
So we're hoping late summer, early fall.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Anything else? On to the next, technology. Mr. Mitchell. Any questions for Mitch?
You already answered my question. I asked them all about, vape detectors. You shared that with me. So if anybody else is curious, ask them.
No questions. Gotcha. And we're up to business manager. Any more to ask Sherry? Getting closer to having the budget in, yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe if the negotiators got done with their thing, it gets you done, yeah. We will, we will. Health office. There she is. Any questions for Melissa?
Most of the sicknesses kind of dropped now.
Yeah, seems to be. We have one case of disease last month, that was kind of odd. Didn't have any other ones, so that was good, but yeah, we still have some sickness obviously, but not getting big numbers, like anything reportable. We haven't had that since January, I don't think, so.
They're still sharing germs though, as they always do, and will. The number of head injuries, I looked at that, I'm like, so is that normal? Is that average?
So essentially with the head injuries, we kind of follow the Heads Up for Schools program. So when it comes to a head injury, whenever a student does hit their head, we automatically do the concussion protocol with that Heads Up for School. And that automatically means 4 office visits. So for the first one, we check pupils, you ask the questions, and then they have to come back in 15 minutes. And we do the same thing over again. Make sure all of that criteria is, and then another 15 minutes we do it again. And then we typically do it within the last hour of school again to make sure nothing's changed, that we're still, in the clear, and we always message families, let them know that it happened, and we send that paperwork home with the child so that they can monitor and look at those same symptoms. So it looks like a lot, but each one of those visits counts as a head injury visit. So essentially if we have, 6 or 8 kids with head injuries in the day, that's 4 visits per kid typically. Sometimes with the kindergartners, because it's harder to get them to and from, we do keep them in the office and, do all 3 of the initial checks and then send them back. But for the most part, kids get tags around their neck and we have to it's a whole process. Actually, that was shared with a bunch of the LSNs at one of our meetings and they adapted it and shared it with like the whole state of Minnesota for LSNs because we just had a hard time, getting them to come back. And so if a kid has a tag, it's like, remember I have this,
That's good.
So yeah, so
Some
that's why it looks like a
from
lot.
kids that.
Yeah, and some people are, some of our parents are like, again, oh, thanks for letting me know, and some are, some are a little bit more, worried about their child, but other ones just kind of know, oh, this is the 17th time, okay, just send that paper home again, so. Yeah, it really depends, so, but yeah, they do generate a lot of office visits because of the protocol that we have in place.
And then
to
you
make sure that
never
we don't
know
miss something.
really,
Yeah.
you never know really if you're saving a kid.
Yeah, and I'd say, we send one up at least a month, if not more, depending, so it just depends, but we have kids that have been diagnosed with that, so.
Any more questions for Melissa? I told potlucks.
Yeah, we had a good salad bar potluck, and then we have Cinco de Mayo coming up, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anything for Mr. Brood over there? I'm sure he's got things to talk about. I see a Captain down over there.
Yeah, these would be the new, we can jump on that, he can ask me questions on that working there also. This is what they would look like, we'd be updating them, modernizing them. Poor hoods are great, they're wonderful, nobody knows how to wear them, nobody knows what they're about. So this would be more of an update. Now, one of the things we do for next year would be looking at formalizing the cords. Now, what we have down there is for this year, so if you flip the page over, the proposal for next year. So this being, obviously, these gowns, we've got our life's worth out of these gowns. They're 18 years old approximately. Every time you clean them, it's a $1,300 bill, and that has to be done every, 3 to 4 years, really. And God bless Miss Audrey back there, she's altered, she's clean, she's made these things live way beyond their years, so it is time. Get a little thicker one too, I think. These are not bad, these have held up pretty well, but spend the money and we can clean them and keep them around for another 10, 15 years, so. This will be this year's. It looks pretty good, looks very modern, very sleek. And as I listed on there, the kids like to keep those caps, so that's something we would look at. So that's good, you know, the caps are not that super expensive, but there is that.
And they'll keep the stole and the cord?
Yeah.
Buy those?
Yeah, we can buy these each year, and I got the price listing down, broken down for you that on there. I think it's just, it's a nice keepsake in that sense, you know, and, it'll look good. It's pretty slick, so that's what we'll be doing this year. The flags are looking okay, they're still, I always debate, because the tops of those flags, they don't make them out of metal anymore, everything's plastic, and they break over years too, and I don't wanna buy a new set, it's only $400 or so. $500 for a new set of flags. We're good for right now on those flags, and we're looking good, so, but eventually that's gonna be another thing you're gonna wanna, clean up. We've replaced all the carpet on there, so the carpet's looking good, so that's all been replaced. Bought that in bulk last year, and the guys take good care of replacing it. If you remember the old carpet, it's just showing its age, so we got a good deal at Menards, and you should hang on to this for about another, I don't know, 8 to 10 years, so they've taken care of that already, so it's pretty good, so should be pretty well set.
You go over the chords and academic recognition.
What's that?
You go over the chords and academic recognition.
Correct. Right now, this would be it. I've got, if you take a look there on that front page, really the gold tassel and silver tassel. So we're doing away with that top 10. We're gonna go with more of an inclusive gold tassel and silver tassel, which will allow us a lot more student recognition along those lines. And 3.5 or higher, and 3.25 to 3.49. Question that comes up with the recognition, that's true right now with the gold tassels, but if you look at the back side, the employment list for the coming years is changing that around for FFA, different groups that we have not been set in stone for. Right now, the way we've always done it is, it's something that, we just bring up ad hoc, and I get the approval process going. Graduation ceremonies are not required by the state of Minnesota, so that's given over to the school to run. So as a principal, I've looked at along those lines. FFA is a big one, obviously, but then there's military. I think the bigger question comes in state law is always more of the stoles that come about. And the past practice at our school, long before I was there, is to have a conversation with us. We could formalize that and recognize only this stole or that stole or this group and that group. The problem we run into is there are situations where state law does intervene. So there is some recognition along those lines, but right now we have the gold tassels, or the tassels and the gold cords, so. A little bit of flexibility moving forward with that, and there might be something you want to consider formalizing, I'm not sure. So just some thoughts on that going forward. But this will be the look for this year, and it's for sure. Clean. And those hoods are seeing their age, so.
Any questions for Mr. Root concerning graduation?
So this year you're just doing the gold cords, next year you're gonna add silver.
Well,
And then
these were just ideas that were put
Okay.
down. nothing's set in stone, it's
Okay.
something we can have that discussion at some point.
Will this result in more people being recognized?
Those are, that's, and really, you go up there, more, you get away from the top 10, kids just qualify. Because here's the problem you run into, I may have top 10, but all those kids are having different classes. So then you get into that argument of, well, this person's taking this class, and well, that's harder than this class. Now it's just, you meet the GPA, we're done. There's no argument, just GPA. It gets a little bit more difficult too. We don't have 250 kids. We don't have a huge school number. In a bigger school district, it's a little bit easier. Also, it gets away from a lot of, because we've been going out to the thousands position on those GPAs, and it just gets to be a real argument. Now we're just, did you meet it? You qualified? Here's your tassel, and it's recognized along those lines. Now, we're still gonna have salutatorian and valedictorian. That won't change. That's always there. It always has been, so.
So did I see that we still only have 9 or 10 that will receive, predicted to get the gold for next year?
Okay.
Right. So those kids that have been working really hard to be in the top 10 and now that won't be there, what do you tell them?
You're qualifying under your GPA is what I would have that conversation with. And there's gonna be that transition period where we're gonna be moving from one to the other.
Right. But those kids that have been working to get that plaque that will no longer be there, what do you tell them?
I would have the conversation with them and tell them your GPA is what got you to this point, and you qualify. You can consider yourself top 10 if you want to consider yourself that, but from our aspect as a school, it makes it much cleaner and more inclusive for everybody rather than just, here's top 10. We're being much more inclusive, and again, we're going back to those classes. I know a lot of them, and a lot of them are gonna be, your kids that are going through CLC. They're gonna be recognized, and that's what we've got going on, obviously, with our entire year. So a lot of those kids are gonna be top 10 kids, I understand that. But my argument would be to, go back to, your GPA got you here, and that's what's gonna get you propelled through the next level into college and beyond that. And this way, we're getting away from a lot of the arguments about this student only have these classes, and we've had those arguments too on the other side. I understand that, Lisa, absolutely. I agree, I understand. The transition is not gonna be easy, and then moving to that mindset, we're doing this as a smaller district is more typical what smaller schools do, as opposed to that. But my argument would still be, we're gonna be accommodating more students in the sense of their classes and themselves getting them to where they're at rather than having that top 10. And I think that's a stronger argument, I would say, for more people or more kids to qualify into that either gold or silver test and then recognize at that level. That would be my argument. Because those are the arguments we have behind closed doors that nobody hears, and we have to have this conversations, and they get it gets a little sad, you have to have conversations about classes before kids are taking. And some of our kids are taking, are being challenged at their own level, and we have to remember that at that level too. And I don't like any of my kids to be railroaded in the sense that they only took this class or that class, or you qualified based on the work that you did in that class, that might, at your level, is gonna be very difficult in itself. That's good.
Just a technical question, Audrey. I see the next board meeting is 3 days before graduation. Are you gonna send out an email for us to pick our ones we wanna give the diplomas to?
Once we get all the seniors locked in on walks and graduates, and
Then you'll send
I
it
can
out.
do that. I will send that out ahead of time.
Gotcha.
And you guys can come and please like to hand it on.
There you go. Sounds good. I know that's always a last minute thing, would be tough to do.
Any other questions about
Any other
graduation?
Busy time, I can't believe it's graduation time already. Okay, Project Momentum, I believe.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am Patty Larson. I am an English as a second language teacher here at both the elementary and the secondary building. I am also the English learner coordinator for Long Prairie Great Eagle. You will have received a flyer. Tammy was not able to be here tonight. And so these have all been shared with all of the staff at both buildings to encourage the opportunity to get their K through 12 additional ESL licensure. And I'll explain how that is going to be beneficial to Long Prairie Great Eagle. In the board book, you will see a PowerPoint. And just to give you a little bit of information, I'm not going to read it point for point, but the objective of Project Momentum is to provide a high-quality professional learning for educators to support multilingual learners. This Project Momentum in 2022 received a 5-year National Professional Development Grant from the United States Department of Education, as well as the Office of English Language Acquisition. And the ultimate goal was to provide free, high-quality online professional learning opportunities, specifically geared towards improving instruction for multilingual learners. The exciting news, and I'm very excited, just to let you know that, Long Prairie Great Eagle, we were offered as a school district 4 spots at no cost for Tier 3 and Tier 4 teachers to have this opportunity. And so we'll go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about what that means. This will be the 3rd cohort this fall. The first cohort that this Project Momentum did, they had over 140 applicants and they graduated 38 applicants. So it's a very, very high rigor program that has been approved by our Minnesota licensing board. I call it PELSB. I don't know, does everybody know Professional Education Licensing Board? Thank you. Board. And so this has been recognized by our licensing board. And the second cohort had about 100 applicants and only 27 were approved or received. And we have one of our staff members who's in the program right now. The equivalent cost of each licensure spot is $7,500. And so this is a $30,000 opportunity for our school to receive this. What this would mean for Long Prairie Great Eagle is that we would have dual licensed teachers within the general classrooms. Depends upon who the applicants are of Tier 3 and Tier 4 teachers at Long Prairie Great Eagle, meaning secondary or the elementary buildings. If we have a math teacher, they would still stay within their math class and receive this licensure to be better prepared to teach the multilingual learners in their classroom. And then it would help overall with the EL department. We could set a specific level of students who would have a higher proficiency level in English, where they would not have to go to a separate class for English as a second language. And with the demographics at Long Prairie Great Eagle, this will be a huge benefit. And I also hope it will encourage others to go through this opportunity to get dual licensed with that. On the next slide, you'll just see some more information. What is the commitment to Project Momentum? What is the commitment for our school district as well? Let me make sure I catch up here. Okay. Right now, we are in the process. We've signed the MOU with Project Momentum. We've received support from administration in both buildings. And when the applicants, they have to turn in their applications, they do not get turned into us, they actually get turned in to Project Momentum, and they have to be highly qualified to be accepted into the program. And so it's not an automatic for people who get accepted, they have to pass the application process. And all of this information is on their website, Project Momentum, it's on the last page. You can look through the ESL Licensure Handbook or Pathway Licensure Handbook in case you have a lot of spare time and you want to know. But it will talk about all the rubrics that applicants need to meet, as well as all of the coursework that also needs to be met. And so,
Then at the building level, this means we can service our students, our children a lot better. I mean, it's just, and it's a freebie in that sense. I mean, these things don't come on, they gave us 4 spots. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know what I never did ask you, I mean, the other school, I mean, that's kind of unheard of, I would.
I think there's only a couple handful of schools throughout the entire states who have received this teacher mentorship and retention grant. So this is a huge deal for us to be able to receive these, so yeah. So I'm very excited. I really encourage, if anybody's listening, Tier 3 and Tier 4 teachers to apply to the program. And so the big thing is getting highly qualified applicants to apply. And so, yeah, so we just wanted to let you know of this great opportunity, so thank you. Any questions?
What, is there an out-of-pocket expense to the individual?
Nope.
Just time, huh?
It will be their individual time. I'm glad you asked that, Chuck. We as a school district, we are working on how we can retain teachers, and we are working with Elevate PD, which is through Sourcewell. We are still working with how many credits that they would get, because this will be all work outside of their classroom until practicum time. And so we are still working with how many credits they could get.
I mean, credits on the salary schedule.
Yes.
Specific to our district.
Yes, yes. So, good question. Other questions?
I would like to share a little bit of kind of our thought conversation that we had with, I think there's some potential to hold on to this project for some time, or at least to continue it in the future. And as we look into the long range, like having more teachers, like say at the elementary, who are certified, even if they're the first grade teacher or the kindergarten teacher, and they're certified to do ESL, then more of the services we provide can be offered in the classroom, particularly for the higher efficiency level. So like long range out, having more of our teachers certified means there's less need to pull students out of the main classroom.
Correct. So, and if you have any questions, you can ask both myself and Tammy Sabula is also a point of contact, and then Mr. Root as well.
Is this online, or do they actually attend classes?
This is all online.
Okay.
And so there are 6 courses they have to take, and it would just be the same 6 courses that somebody such as myself who went to a different university and to take. They are all asynchronous, but once per course, it is synchronous virtually. The practicum needs to be done in person, and that will be one thing with the administrations that are set up. It will look different for a high school content teacher versus an elementary teacher. And so that part is flexible, Chuck, as far as what that looks like for the practicum. Does that answer your question?
But this isn't automatic, they have to pass an internship and I assume some kind of a test or something to.
This one does not. For the ESL licensures, there are no, I believe they're called MTLE tests. There is no licensure exam after completing the coursework and showing that you have completed all of the necessary requirements for the program.
Is it pass, fail? I mean, there's gotta
Pretty
be
much.
something there,
Yeah. Oh, yes,
Or
there
is it
is.
just pass?
Oh, well, No, there is not. There is very rigorous standards that have to be met. And so, again, I didn't print out the pathway, but I could actually share that with you to show what needs to happen in each of the courses and what the coursework is, along with the syllabi, and what that needs to look like for the teacher.
I've seen some of that, and like, I mean, it's good quality professional development. It's not just fancy.
Yes, because they had to work with the licensing board in Minnesota to allow this to happen. So it's just an alternate pathway versus, because some of the colleges in Minnesota have cut offering English as a second language licensures. So it's an alternate pathway.
I just want it to be a easy pathway to a raise.
No. And this is coming from my colleague. She's enjoying every moment of it, but it's a lot of work. But she says what she is learning has been applicable within her classroom every day. But it's not easy, she said. But I know she'll persevere, so. Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to for the board reports and stuff. I just put one thing on there. Superintendent evaluation is supposed to be done always at the end of the school year. So I thought we would just take the evaluation we did already, do it again. Change your answers as you want to or don't, or whatever you want to do. And so I'll get that out, get that done in May so that we can talk about it in June.
Are you gonna allow all the folks to do it like you did before, or just board members?
No, I think the whole staff and stuff, just like we did before. Unless there's objection. And then I decided, or we thought the reason we did the same one is the goals that we evaluated him on are the goals that he used all year. So my intention then is to be next year, we would come up with a different set of goals and then the evaluation tool will be different next year. But to do it this year, we would fulfill that obligation that we have to do. So just be ready, we're gonna do it online again like we did before.
How's negotiations coming with the superintendent on his contract? Are you guys close to getting it in? He's last, okay.
We wanna finish up the other ones.
Okay.
But we worked with them.
Okay.
We've talked. Okay, next thing, superintendent.
So, I have my report if there's any questions, and there is board minute, which I used a slightly different method for. It was a scenario base. A scenario of a community member approaches you about a serious student behavior, what do you do? And I'm not sure if everybody's taking a look at it, but it goes through the different considerations that you would have in that situation, different questions to ask, and so if anybody have time to kind of think about what would be effective ways to respond to that scenario.
It was a good scenario.
It's definitely one that you'll encounter at some point if you have not already. So the possible responses, it's written as, given the situation, what is the most appropriate course of action for a board member? Acknowledge the concern and reinforce that student discipline is governed by law and due process. Refer questions about specific incidents to administration, recognizing their role in day-to-day decisions. Avoid making assumptions or public statements without full information. Reinforce the district's commitment to safety and student rights. Which of these responses best reflect your role as a board?
Referring it to the administration. probably don't have a answer.
Some of those things don't necessarily need to come to the board table. But the administrators are there, or they have firsthand experience with what's going on.
So if there is a discipline issue and you have a question raised and you do want to like kind of look into it as a board member, the most appropriate thing to look into is if the procedures and policies are being followed. The administrator isn't likely able to share with you like names or situations, might even be under investigation or release. But like one thing, for example, if it involves another administrative member, you can always ask me if the policies or processes are being followed. Do avoid telling people you're gonna take care of it, because you can't. But it's a scenario based. If you prefer this method is what I've used for the other ones, let me know. Do it a couple of times and whatever's most useful. We continue doing it that way. We'll talk more about some other things, but any questions from my board reports?
Questions? And we'll move on, there's no unfinished business, but we'll skip over the board highlight. I would just wanna say our spring stuff is going beautifully. Prom was great, the small group and large group, music, both band and choir, super. The dinner theater I heard was just cool. So, anything else, the spring sports are going good, I think, we've had some wins, everything, and that's good. Anybody else have something that they've seen, done?
Can I add something?
Sure.
Kate Jones will sign with St. Olaf on Friday morning for track, so that'll be our third one for the year.
Cool. You had something?
Patty Larson did quite a bit of work on that Project Momentum to get us in the pool.
Thank you.
So those things just don't drop out of the sky.
No. Brad too with the kindergarten stuff, that's a lot of work there too. But keep Brad going on. Melissa, you do super stuff with it, and kids there and all that stuff. We have a wonderful staff here, period.
I guess this would go back to Mr. Rude probably, or to Kelsey. With the play coming up this weekend, there was mention of a dinner matinee. Has that been determined, or?
Yes, Mr. Lamb is working with Bruno over at Midway. And last time I talked to him, he's just finalizing everything, so they're gonna have that on the 25th.
Times or?
7 o'clock, I will be 6 o'clock. But I'm sure he'll be sending something out here pretty quick, as already, so.
It is, if you want people to sign up though, so they have an idea. We've been taking a sign up through community education. Right now, there's 22 people signed up for the dinner part of it. I think it's just online, so if you want to sign up, you can do that, because there is a charge. And they want to know for how many people that they're going.
Makes sense, that's kind of why I was asking that.
Yep, it's online through community.
Okay.
That's so cool that we do stuff like that. It's nice. Anything else, board highlights? Unfinished business is like empty. I have to find the donations. Please bear with me if I need a drink in between. I'm gonna try and group some of them together. I'll do all the post prompts together if I can do that, and all the color runs together. Because this truly is, thank you very much to our communities, because this is wonderful, this shows. All right, Grayville Bertram Lions Club, $1,000 post prom, $1,000 trap shooting. The Rotary Club is $300 for Dollars for Scholars. ARC Electrical Service and Northern Star Cooperative and Prairie Family Dental and Grayville Bertram Lions for the elementary color run. And you can see all those numbers are there. CTC, Lakewood Health, Magnify Financial, Jurgen and Luan Brunkhorst, James and Catherine LaRue, Long Prairie Rotary, Arvig, Trinity Lutheran, Advantage One, Todd Wadena Electric, Cathedral Press, Felling Trailers, Centra Care Health System, American Heritage Bank. That was all post-prom. Viking Coke with the Letter Club, Jenkins, Iron and Steel, Minnesota National Bank, Magnify Financial, Trinity Lutheran, the Trinity Lutheran Ladies Circle, Trailer Center at Hillig Auto Center, Long Prairie Sanitation, Cathedral Press, North Star Plumbing, Heating and Air LLC, Comfort Chiropractic, American Food Group, Double R Saloon, Timothy and Carolyn Venice, Farm Properties and LLC, DBA Prairie Pharmacy, Kidco Farms Processing Incorporated, Hormel Financial Services Corporation, Colonel Al Wessel Auctioneer, Central Minnesota Realty, Goplin's Ltd, CTC, Vanguard Insurance Enterprise CP LLC, Black Bog Giving Fund, Quinlivan and Hughes PA, Lakeland Dental, Axe Commit Transportation, Countryside Restaurant of Long Prairie, Peace United Church Long Prairie, Little Rose Creations, CHS Prairie Lakes, Sell No Law Office, Phillips Repairables, Subway, Casey's General Store, MetaQuest Health Insurance Services, Bradle Electric, Central Byproducts, Minnesota Fresh, Shields gave gift cards, Dairy Queen gave gift cards, LP Tarp, Beacom and Company Photo. All these are elementary color run. Fleet Supply, Fitz Electric and Heating, Hometown Abstract Title, East West Realty, Sojourn Counseling, New Image Salon, Davies Garage, Long Drive-In gave movie passes, Walmart gave 6 $25 gift cards, 110 Coffee gave $75 in gift cards, McDonald's gave 5 $10 gift certificates, all for the color run. $2,000 from the Blanchard family for a memorial for Aaron. Central Minnesota Whitetails for the trap team, $800. Rotary Club, American Legion Post 12 for the Letter Club, American Legion Post 12 for the trap team, Dennis Breidenfeld for post prom, Stearns Electric post prom, Peace United Church of Women of Peace post prom, Khaled Christensen post prom, Arc Electric also for the color run. Thank you very much, folks. That is just absolutely wonderful. I guess we need a motion to accept those donations.
So moved.
I'll second.
Tom, Lori, any discussion?
How does, once in a while I see somebody come in here and give you a check and we have a picture and it gets in the paper and that. What's the money trail for all these donations? Where do they come? Do they come to your office and give you some money or?
So we have a flow-through protocol that the auditors look for every year. And what happens is the original people count the money. So let's say it's the concession stand. They would count the money, then it goes to the offices. So generally that would go to the high school office, they count the money. There's a receipt voucher that has multiple copies. Then it comes over to our office, we recount the money, and all along the way, everybody's signing off on it. And then it goes to the bank, and then when it comes back as the same amount, then that receipt goes back to the original person saying, all the money was counted, we all agreed on how much the money was, and it's in the bank. So there's at least typically 3 checks, double checks before it goes into the bank, and then the original person knows that it got there.
They got that.
Yep.
What about gift cards? How do you handle gift cards?
Those,
Give them to the board members or what?
absolutely not.
No, we very rarely deal in gift cards.
We are now.
Yeah, and they're given out as gifts, like at post prom, when they donate
Okay,
a gift card,
that'd be a good place.
the students, I don't know how they do it now, but back when I did post prom, we gave the students choices of the prizes that they won. They could choose a thing, like a TV or something, or they could choose gift cards, and we had them to gas stations, eating places, all kinds of stuff. That's what those are mostly used for, is incentivized or post prom prizes. We don't deal in a lot of gift cards for other things.
One more question.
Yep.
What fund does that money go to?
It depends, post prom is under community ed, so they've got a running balance from year to year. And then most of it all is in the student activity account. So if you look under the financial reports for the student activity, all of those separate funds are earmarked. And then actually Jenny and I go through that account a couple times a year, because I mean the difference between marching band and letter club on a 17-digit code is 460 to 461. So sometimes, you know, you type the wrong thing. We usually go through the detail and make sure everything's in the right place, and if it isn't, we move it. But yeah, most of the money that you see like that is either admissions for athletic events or student activity. We don't take a lot of money for food service. If they go back to families having to pay for food service, then we run a lot of money through food service as well. But for right now, we don't.
I mean, there's a lot of, lot of stuff here.
So all those.
There's more coming too.
Yep, and all those will show up as a detail under the color run, for example, will show up under elementary activity. Post prom will show up under community ed, post prom account.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rick. Any further questions on the donations? And again, thank you. Please tell the people out there, thank you for that. It makes the color run work, and it makes post prom work, and all of this stuff works good, so. I would take motion, we got the motion, we got the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Roll call on that one.
We need roll call on that.
It's unanimous, though.
Budget streamlining recommendations.
So, we received a few compensatory runs, and compensatory aid is aid that's primarily driven off of being reduced with lunch numbers. And the major factor for our school district is allowing us to count paper forms versus going to just direct certification, because we lose about 50% of our count. And from the three runs, it's varied from having a $700,000 cut to 200 at the high end, and the last one was about 300. My anticipation is that compensatory aid will be, for us, reduced, because I believe this is being seen by the legislature as a sort of cut in education. At least that's the feedback I'm getting from my sources. With that in mind, I sent some of these ahead of time so they can think about it. Ultimately, it's your decision. But my first set of recommendations involves shifting around positions, and the purpose is to get higher cross-subsidy aid. And to start off, one would be to phase out the instructional coach position and add a special education teacher. My recommendation would be to the elementary. The reason for that recommendation is our caseloads in the elementary are very high. I believe we have one of the higher student to teacher ratios for our special education, and so that would reduce some pressure. And right now, I've been in contact with the union talking about what, because there's a statute regarding special education overload. And so we've been discussing that in relation to our contract. And if our caseload numbers don't, if that ratio doesn't get better, we will probably be paying like some version of an overload. And so that also avoids that cost. Currently, we do have an open first grade position, so it allows us some ability to move people around without needing to leave somebody without a job. The second part of my recommendation would be to convert 2 of our WIN positions over to English as a second language. The primary driver for that recommendation from me is in the coming fiscal year, there'll be cross subsidy for English as a second language, meaning we can reclaim about 25% of our costs. So between the 50 and the 225, moving positions around, I get funding for an additional position. So the second part of my recommendation is to let the Dean of Students position lapse. You guys remember that was added during the COVID time to allow Mr. Hood more time to observe classrooms and provide additional support with discipline. We've kept that going for a few years past the COVID ESSER dollars. And if there was a position added, so we no longer have the funds, that's why it's listed there. My next recommendation would be to take from the Appendix C, National Honor Society, which is about $3,000, and the Student Council, which is $4,750. Combine those positions with the athletic director, kind of look at it as a student leadership and activities position. And that would, those two things combined would be about $7,750. With Tom, we've been talking about a rental agreements between Kelsey, Brad, I, Tom. And we currently spend about $25,000 to $30,000 on rental fees, so costs of custodial, different things. And the recommendation we'll bring in May would be to reclaim those costs. So that would be part of the overall budgeting recommendation. Sherry and I are taking a look at how coding can be adjusted. So to make a long story short, if you code it a certain way, then the formula counts more expense towards your cross subsidy. And so that could potentially, based on freshwater calculations, generate an extra $40,000 of revenue. You guys saw the solar for schools. If we did do that and save the money in our electrical bills, that would get us up to about the $200,000 between everything. And that's a combination of moving things around to increase revenue and decrease expenses. And the second part of mine has more to do with item 3, but that is my initial budget recommendations.
This is just food for thought, yes, right now.
Well, I recommend if we do some of that stuff with staffing, that we make those decisions so people can decide what they want to do. Because right now we have some positions that aren't filled. And if we make those decisions, at least on the teaching positions, then we can start taking a look at how those things can be shifted so that as many people as we can have a role somewhere.
I'm a little confused about taking the WIN and exchanging it with ESL. I don't know how many positions that is for sure, but in the WIN program, don't they do math and reading? Is that what they work on, math and reading when they go to WIN? And if we have possibly 4 people that move on this, yes, I don't know, I mean, would that take care of that? I don't know. I reading and math, we're really low on that. I don't know about if we exchange that, I don't know if that's a good idea really. I mean,
How many
it's
kids are,
important for the kids to,
how many kids are serviced through our WIN program? And then would we no longer have that program, or
It would reduce the staffing in Wynn. I have talked with Patty Larson and Chris about this. And talked some about possibly using one of those ESL positions in Wynn, possibly. That would require more conversation. Because kind of what we were talking about with that project momentum, if we have more teachers certified providing this as a second language, then we have more ability to meet the needs in various ways. I can tell you that our ESL population is around a little higher than 380. And when we had our current staffing, that's at least 100, 150 more students under ESL. Our WIN positions were added during COVID. It's always tough to decide where your needs are, because if I could have enough money to pay for all those positions, it would be nice to even add on top of that. But I don't think we have the funds to do that.
And so I think in the deep cutting situations that I've been involved with school, and there was a time when we cut really deep. It was much easier if, like, we're gonna have a first grade opening. So that's an automatic one teacher out, so you could put the one teacher in that position so that person does not lose their job. I know that's a lot easier for me to take. Chuck, were you part of all that cutting back in the day with Ray? I know that was important to us. I don't wanna cut somebody and kick them out the door.
No.
So sometimes we just have to juggle that stuff and make it
My
work.
question was,
I know we
we're
do,
low in reading and math, and it doesn't make sense to me if we are working on ESL to enhance that and have more educators with the ESL program.
what are you gonna do if you can't pay for that time?
No, that program where, are there 4 people that might get to,
Project Momentum.
yeah.
But that takes a year, right?
Yeah.
They're just in the application process, so it'll take a year for them to
Well,
be
So
done,
what
right?
happens to the kids, okay, what happens to the kids in the WIN, what happens to the kids in the WIN program that are working on their reading and their math that's really important to things?
Can I speak up for a minute?
Yeah.
Carissa Bitz is not here right now, and I believe that currently this year, I can only speak for the elementary, I don't believe there's any title funds at the secondary this year. So with the title program receives money from Title I and then also access grants, and Brad can speak more on that. I believe this year there's 5 teachers, 1 position just got filled, and I believe this is her week 2 for that. And then 2 paras, 1 access funds and 1 Title I funds. The groups this year at the elementary, I believe, are only reading. And so I know last year we had some math groups, and in the older grades, and not to put Jill on the spot, that was last year, correct? At the end of the day, there were some schedule changes. I don't believe there's any specific math interventions happening this year with the title team, but I don't wanna misspeak either.
And I texted Carissa and she said they're only delivering, like, they're reading WIN groups right now, and then they deliver the specific interventions that may not fit within a WIN group.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
It's not gonna make that reading help obsolete. They'll just,
Oh,
they'll
correct,
still be there.
correct, yes.
How many WIN teachers total do we have right now?
We have a total of 5
5.
full-time WIN teachers.
So we just be taking 2 of those to help the ESL.
From what Daniel,
Is what
I'll let him
he's
speak
saying.
on that.
So one important note is that with one of the ESLs and our current ESL teachers, to my understanding, are certified K through 12. The high school really needs another ESL teacher. Patty, if you'd help me out with how large the classes are.
Sure, let me get my papers out. So currently, and I don't have a group, sorry Tanya, I feel like I keep getting.
Hello.
Hello. 7th grade currently has 38 ESL students. 8th grade is only 15, 9th grade is 20, 10th grade is 28, and 11th grade is 14. And Judith and Chantel, the ESL teachers over there, average about 76 students. It might be a little down because we've lost some students, are probably down about 68 students per caseload. And so,
Yeah, it's understandable.
Ashley, go ahead.
Can I share Carissa's statement was, to share with the board was, this is Carissa Vitz's words, core instruction in classrooms is more important than the WIN positions. That was her statement from here. And she also pointed out that one of their instructors is half-time at St. Mary's as well for WIN services. As far as moving students and growth, she feels like core instruction in the classroom is more important than the WIN positions. They have 4.5 for the elementary school.
The other thing I wonder then is, and I've talked to you about it too, dean of students person. To be fair, if you're gonna take the high school dean of students away, why not the elementary?
So if we're referring to the student behavior, however that goes, that is paid for by ADSIS at this time. And the reason I say that is that's one of those items, because I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I've talked about Blue Ribbon Commission a few times. And there's talk about whether or not that they would do away with ADSIS in order to cut special ed funding. It's not special ed, but it gets paid through by the formula. So that's why that's relevant. So we currently have 3 positions that have basically about 50% paid for by ADSIS, and that's one of them. And then a couple of the WIN positions, I think that's kind of how we cobble it together. I shouldn't say cobble, but like WIN is paid for by a combination of title, ADSIS, and there's even some overlap with A&I, isn't there? Yes. So like right now to pay, because when we lost the COVID dollars, we got special kudos to Bonnie with helping me get the word out about how important free and reduced lunch applications are. And so our compensatory aid went up roughly about the amount that our COVID dollars came off. And now they want to cut, essentially indirectly cut compensatory aid. And I'm pretty sure that that's what we're looking at, is reduction in our compensatory aid. And it seems like the temperature from the legislature is pretty strongly that that's not going to be held harmless. Obviously, you and I have talked some, but like it's easier to say, hey, we do have it funded and have the position back, than it is to tell somebody, hey, we don't have the money anymore, you don't have a job.
So we won't know until the legislator's done exactly what we're being funded.
Yes, I would say that is the case because of the various factors. The Blue Ribbon Commission being one of them, compensatory aid, those are really the 2 biggest for us. And kind of a sidebar, our funding from the federal government for various title programs has been waning. And Title III, that's the one for ELL, yeah. That one's been under quite a bit of target from the federal government. There's some intention by them to eliminate that one. It doesn't pay for a lot of our ELL services. So our federal funds have been kind of like slowly shrinking, and then the compensatory looks like it's going to take a hit. Yeah, I feel pretty confident in that because we've got 3 runs, and all of them have had some sort of reduction. And then I don't know the fate of special ed funding, because if my expectation is if they do maintain the $300 million worth of cuts that the government targeted, that I would expect ADSIS to go with. So I was an art teacher when I was in the classroom, and I taught back when Mr. Tim Plenty was governor, and I got to be on the budget cut list 3 years in a row, so it's not anything I take lightly.
Are we all thinking?
Ultimately, we want what's best for the students. So the staff knows, they know, you guys know how to figure that out, what's best for the students.
That's
However
why,
that works with this,
that's why folks have already left. That leaves us holes that we can juggle a little bit. Correct.
Yes, and, I mean, not the original intent of Project Momentum, but we do have that pathway sitting there, that if you wanna get your ESL license and, fit into that mix, like, we can provide it without a cost to you. Obviously, it's time, but then you can still get your, movement on the salary schedule. And I do appreciate Patty's long-range suggestion, I think that's a good thing to pursue, and try and get more and more staff qualified, because funding usually doesn't get looser, so the more that we can meet our needs, be more efficient, I think is the word, then hopefully we don't need to rob Peter to pay Paul, as they say. Because it is tough when you have to pick between one area and the other, but I know our special ed is definitely gotten some angry letters from that department, and it's fine if you're out there, I get it. And ESL has been very patient with me. I do see the numbers. Don't always comment on them. I do watch them.
Getting back to special ed, what's this, why are we losing so much money with coding?
We're not losing that.
How are you gonna fix that?
So we're not losing funding, because this would be how to get more than we currently are. And so basically it has to do with a mathematics problem. So if you code an expense to this account, you still can claim the expenses over in these other calculations. And so, then same expense is producing more revenue if you shift around the coding.
The whole freshwater ed district is talking about reporting a different way. I haven't seen it all yet. Jordan did a preliminary presentation to us a month or so ago, because our special ed reporting goes through freshwater. So he's working with somebody at MDE to, however they report to the state, we're gonna recode differently. And like I said, I don't know exactly what it looks like right now, but he's working with somebody at MDE for the whole ed district to recode differently.
Have we indeed lost money
No.
on that because of
Nope.
coding problems?
Nope, this is just a different way of coding that he found out about at our last MASBO meeting that she recommended, she didn't recommend it to him directly. He went to her and said, if we did this, would it make a difference? And that's what they're working on.
So probably part of the story is that the special ed formula is one of the most complicated formulas in Minnesota finance, and that's saying a lot. And so the presentation done to Freshwater was by somebody who has a very high level understanding of the mathematical formulas to generate the funding. And simply it was if you code it this way, you'll get more than if you code it this way. And so she presented that to
Obviously,
her.
we wanna do it this way, right?
Yeah,
And we're gonna have that mechanism in place, right?
yeah, we're speaking with Jordan. I do wanna make sure we dive into it, but he did preliminary numbers, and that number I shared with you was what he thought could potentially be generated.
And that has to be a timely reporting mechanism, right?
With special ed, it's always good to have timely reporting because, as Melissa knows, when we provide our nursing services, if they're listed on IEPs, we have to do medical billing. And our medical billing and funding has increased in the last few years because of more timely reporting. So sometimes, it's not often, there's ways to claim more of the funding than you currently are by making sure that you get more things accounted for. This one happens to be it happens to generate more if you code it this way versus that way.
One more question. How about, what effect you anticipate that reducing or eliminating the secondary library is gonna have on instruction?
So that's an interesting question, because right now we have 2 media centers and they're currently staffed by 2 very hardworking individuals, and I anticipate that maybe one of those will retire in the future. And so then at that time, it becomes a question of like.
I don't want the library to go away.
Yeah, so.
Reading is, I have books.
So it's more of a need that I think we should assess as far as what's the best way to deliver it.
Okay.
But on the specific, because that's not, I don't think happening this year, but okay.
Thanks.
Okay, then, if I understand all of this, in this motion, we're going to make it tonight, because he kind of needs it to let people know what's going on. Teacher coach would be replaced with a sped teacher. 2 WIN positions would be replaced by ELL teachers. The dean of students would lapse at the high school. Honor Society and Student Council would switch to the AD duties. The rental agreements would be adjusted so they.
Yeah, that one will come more in May.
Yeah.
As part of the total number I was generating.
Okay, so you don't care that we not talk about that one, or?
Well, that one has more details.
Okay.
Because Brad, Kelsey, and Tom and I were working on like the policy updates.
Okay, so then the solar grant business is all too, we did that tonight.
Yeah, because that will come, but like, as you saw from the energy savings, if we did all those stuff, that's how you get up the number. Obviously, if you don't do certain things, I am going to investigate what we can generate in revenue from investing or general fund balance, but I don't have a specific number for that.
So
keep looking, there must be something easier out there.
can we plant it in the garden and grow money? So then those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things you would like us to, no, 4 things. 4 things.
So these positions that these teachers are, that they have right now, they will have spots somewhere else?
That would be my intention. Because we have one opening, so if we hire a special ed teacher, there's room to maneuver. We do have this route where teachers could get an ESL if they're not working on, so like, so there's options now. People may decide that they don't want to take those options, and that's why I think it's important to let them know early so that they can make those choices. I don't feel like it's good to leave people hanging and then make them feel like kind of trapped in this situation.
So, but you just said that will take a year to do that course, correct?
You apply for a
So
variance.
what would they do in the meantime if they don't have that?
Apply for a variance until it occurs. So that you have so many years that you can work under a variance. We have other teachers on a variance. I mean, they wouldn't necessarily have to go through that program either to get a variance, but at least there's options there.
So you're saying there aren't really spots for these people unless they do something else?
It's that or you just cut positions.
But there are some openings yet, that's it.
Yeah, and I don't know what, I mean, I hear that there might possibly be other routes. Obviously, I don't know until the end of the year, but I feel like you need to give people a chance to make the decisions that they want to make, and if we have staff that, you know, obviously I can't speak for everybody, but we have offered the WIDA classes, and we've had a lot of staff take that training and letters training, and I'm very grateful for that. I know it's a little different when the stakes are higher, but at least the option is there.
So would we know more about compensatory going forward when it's announced towards the end of the school year? Is that like a 2-year cycle or a 1-year cycle, or how?
I'm anticipating to only know through the end of this year, and then in the next legislative cycle, then taking it up again. And currently, I don't anticipate like it being something we should count on.
Just in the fact that they're eliminating it, or the fact that because families would have to register at the county in order to be counted?
The way I'm understanding the formula right now is that because we would lose people because they can't do the paper forms, that's driving a lot of our loss of revenue.
Right. Because they have to self-identify within Todd County in order for the school district to get credit for those individuals.
Pretty much.
Okay. And there's no way we can do like a big push or?
Well, it's a great question. There's sort of a push and pull with that, because like the county isn't necessarily in a good position by trying to add a whole bunch of people through direct certification, because that means there's more people taking benefits. And so you can certainly give people the information, but my experience working with some of the individuals that would be involved in this is that they're not necessarily going to be eager to like throw the doors wide open, so to speak, because that negatively impacts their budget.
I think it's difficult to have those forms filled out at school, too. I mean, there were people always, and I'm not gonna fill out that form, nobody's gonna know my income. And I think going to the county is one step worse, they won't.
Yeah, I mean, because typically right now, like I know like with my daughter, stuff like that, we get the form stuff out while we're registering for her Chromebook and stuff like that. But it's unfortunate that this is the direction that we are forced to go, especially since I think we live in an area where you have that, you know, people don't want other people to know what they make, and also too, you don't want to have the perception of that you need assistance.
Right.
Yeah. So, even though it's helping our school district.
It's hard to convince them that filling out that form helps your school without you being affected by it.
Like going to the county and filling out is a lot more intensive of a process than coming to the school and registration, where we'll help you out and, you know, like ask you again, say you filled this out wrong. It's like we're a lot easier to work with. Just because I don't think we need as much information as if you're gonna go on like a county assistant program.
But you also think they're gonna do cuts to education in the forthcoming years, correct?
There's a lot of temperature to not give us more, and I think best case scenario is like, say if we get Democratic trifecta, the problem is then all the mandates, where like we've had, so some of the things hitting us hard are paid family medical leave, because there's about 3 times as many absences. We've had about 70 some staff either on board or exit this year. SST, so we have, already said the absences, and some are unemployment, that was the best case. So like, we've gotten more revenue in some places, but then we have to pay for these other things. And so, I'm just saying what the patterns I'm seeing, I don't think it'd be wise to bank on more revenue. Or at least more revenue that we can decide what we want to do with it.
So I got a couple of questions here. So I hear a lot about WIN, and I know it's kind of an important program because it helps work with those students that are underachieving, that need a little bit of extra, support to help them kind of get caught back up. So, and I know oftentimes, teachers, please help me, they work in small groups, right? 3 to 5?
Yeah.
And so far we have 5 WIN teachers, right?
Yeah, 4.5.
4.5.
And one's brand new.
And one's brand new, and then 2 paras to go with those 5 teachers, right? Okay, and we want 2 of those WIN teachers to go over to ESL teachers. So do ESL teachers also work with small groups, 3 to 5?
No, not 3 to 5.
No. So essentially then we'd be having the ESL teachers working one-on-one with individual kids?
We do if they qualify under our language instructional education plan, meaning if they meet the qualifications of taking the alternate access and are not able to find success in a general ESL classroom. And we currently in our district have 13 students that get one-on-one, and they about 10 minutes, 2 days a week. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeking clarification.
Yep.
So essentially then we'll have our most vulnerable kids receiving less support at a time when the federal governments are requesting more and more testing and students passing those tests that affect funding going forward too then. So it seems like if we were to cut those WIN positions, which could affect test scores, which then could also reduce our funding, that may not necessarily be the best solution going forward.
That's a very applicable question.
But then you also heard what Carissa had to say.
Right, but if we have classrooms of 20 plus students, and we already have a bunch of those students that are receiving ESL services within those teachers are having less time working with the other students.
Correct.
So I'm certainly not arguing that if we could hire 5 more intervention teachers, that wouldn't be good for our MTSS program and allow us to do a lot of stuff. I'm saying I don't think you're gonna have the funds to do it.
And obviously something has to be done, budgets are budgets, right? We all have to work within a set amount of money. But when it comes to cutting positions that affect the most vulnerable students that we have, I don't know if I'm necessarily supportive of that type of cut. And I know those are the positions that often, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. And I know that those are the positions that often get targeted the most often because they're easy to cut, but often overlooked.
Well, to really answer that question, you have to decide what position gets cut instead.
And I get that, and
Like I said, I was an art teacher, I was on the low end of the totem pole 3 years in a row, so it's not a fun place to be. And I certainly would argue with you that I had a lot to offer myself.
You're right, and I don't disagree with that statement, like, nobody wants to see people out of work, right? Especially in a community the size of ours, because we're gonna run into everybody. And as to you, Dan, I also think that arts are important too. But I just, if we're going from having groups of 3 to 5 students, and then we're cutting 2 teachers, or 2 WIN teachers, or even 1.5 WIN teachers, then all of a sudden we're leaving out 20 to 25 students, if they have a caseload of multiple students. And then what happens to those students? Especially since ESL can't work within groups and they're more of a one-on-one type setting.
Jeremiah, so when you asked if we work with small groups, so we are a federally mandated state mandated program. Any student who qualifies, the reason I went, a small group, is because any student who qualifies, and due to the large number of our students, our groups are based on our schedule, and so every classroom we go into, and we have to provide tier 1 ESL instruction to.
Okay, so then those students that would normally meet with a WIN teacher wouldn't necessarily be left out then, or?
Oh, correct, no, so students still qualify for both. So they would receive ESL during the day, and then there's also a time that they would receive Title 1 as well.
So, I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Okay, so maybe I misunderstood.
One of the other problems in this mix, and it's tough, but either way, we have extremely high caseloads in our ESL. And we have extremely high caseload in our IEP. And if you keep asking staff to service more students than is reasonably like is reasonable, you'll eventually lose other staff because they get burnt out. That's just my logic, right, wrong, otherwise you can disagree with it, but, we have, like I said, like 150 more ESL students than when we originally had that amount of staff. And so somebody has to provide those services. And our IEP population is growing too, and that's not unique to our school district, that's transversely.
Is it possible that some of these WIN students may benefit more by having an ELL teacher to help them?
Are you asking about if we could specifically?
If you're switching a WIN teacher to,
So it would still needing to be the language development, the language acquisition. One thing after Mr. Leppickson talked with Mrs. Bitts and I is we have a lot of students who come in and out of our school district. And with those students, some come with a high rate of literacy and some come with not as high a rate of literacy. And one of the questions that we would like to answer systemically in our school is, how do we help those students with the academics? And so is there a way that they are still receiving EL, but because of that second language acquisition, then we can also help support them in their literacy as well? Because right now we're kind of having to divide what we're doing because we each have different objectives. So we would still have to meet the requirement of ELD, but for those newer students, we could then also include them getting the phonics, or whether it's more than likely not phonemic awareness, but the phonics and the fluency and the comprehension vocabulary as well. So that's just
it may help some of those students that need that.
a little more than what we're able to do. So learning to read, yeah.
Do you have a rough estimate, how many students that participate in WIN have IEPs?
That's a great question.
They can't be, they're not getting an intervention because they have an IEP.
If they are academic IEPs, I believe they are not, otherwise that would be double dipping.
Right, that's what I was asking. So, students that are receiving WINs don't necessarily have IEPs, but they're those students that are kind of in the middle where they don't qualify for an IEP, but they're not quite classroom level yet.
Looking at the data, it could also be students who are also learning the language and they aren't able, because we're a school-wide Title I.
Right.
So.
And I'm just asking, because I'm trying to, I'm not in the education field, right? So I'm just trying to figure it out here.
I know, my brain is going right now.
How many of the WIN students don't qualify for ESL? Because those would be the kids that lose out on services.
You managed to ask the question in the way I was trying to
I really
formulate
had to
it.
think about that, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
And I do not have a list of the groups and the students, so I could not give demographic information tonight, but that's a valid question to have asked.
Because those would be the students that would really then fall behind, because they would not qualify for ESL.
Right. Now I understand what you're asking.
Yeah, I was getting there in a roundabout. I'm glad Lisa was able to put my word salad together and form a reasonable question that I just couldn't address myself.
But I don't think any of our kids are really lacking. If they need special attention, they get it somewhere, correct?
But a lot of it's through WIN. That's why they're getting the special, I mean, years ago, we cut our gifted program, and that's gone forever. Now, we're going to possibly take a big chunk out of our WIN program. I think it's sad. And I think.
Money always is.
Yeah, but I think there has to be a better way, something else that can be cut other than this.
Do we know how much money we'd save on cutting the 2 WIN teachers?
To be the If you do the special ed and the 2 ESL, basically you gain the cross subsidy, and so you get the revenue of additional teacher. And so, because you get the additional revenue of additional teacher, that takes that out, like, that becomes part of the budget streamlining. So, because the WIN does not receive funding from a cross subsidy. You can cut from other areas, but then you have to weed through different funding sources. So if you cut from a classroom, obviously you're increasing classroom sizes. If you cut an ADSIS position, then you lose the ADSIS funding. If you cut like student support, such as a social worker, then you lose the student support funding, or you have to find somewhere else that you can use it. So it's hard to decide.
So I'm trying, oh, sorry, go ahead.
After I listen to all this, it's hard decisions, but when I think about WIN and ELL, and then I think about our dean of students, all of that affects all of our kids. And for the rest, I guess it would be a very difficult spot to try to decide this, but when the rubber meets the road, whatever's decided, everyone else has to pick it up and deal with the kids and what they need. So I feel bad for you guys having to make decisions, but no matter what you cut, it's in. I get it, but no matter in discipline, whether it's anything, it's gonna be tough. And we just have to pick it up. That's what we have to do what's best for the kids.
I think back when we instituted WIN, Mr. Kringen was here, and he said very clearly that don't count on this as permanent funding. Because he said that was part of ESSER stuff, and that was part of COVID and all that, where we got this little pot of change. So those of us that were there then always knew that this stuff was gonna come. And like I said before, it is not easy. All what we do here is fantastic stuff. And it takes the money that we have. Well, now we don't have the money, as much money. We could spend down our balances and go in the hole and then get into statutory operating debt and all that miserable business.
We are far from that.
But if we kept spending like this, if we didn't cut anything, it wouldn't take long.
How many, so there's usually 5 in a WIN class, right? So would that number without these 2, like would there then be 7 or 10 in a group, or you have to keep it at 5?
I don't wanna misspeak. I don't believe there's a specific number, but
Okay.
typically between 3 to 5. So
And
the
how long
group-
do they go for each time? Like how, each group?
30 minutes.
30
And
minutes.
they would keep the group small because that's best, so then kids would lose services.
Okay.
Carissa's trying to work on a number right now of how, like, what that impact would look like. She's trying to do math really fast.
I just fear that you cut these things and then families see this and they go to a district where their children will receive the service. And then we lose the funding for that child anyway, which
Well,
is,
and like what Jeremiah said, that if our scores, you know, the yearly scores go down, that affects our income also. So I mean,
The other thing that I need to bring up, like, and like I will agree with Audrey, I don't envy you your choice. If the money isn't there, the money isn't there. But it's also not as simple as swapping out, like for example, one teacher to an ELL teacher or a SPED teacher, because you now have licensing in there. So I think we have to be aware that in reality, with my position and 2 WIN teachers, we are probably going, if 2 teachers, classroom teachers If they choose not to do SPED, or if they choose not to do it ESL, which that is their choice to do because those would both be variances, they will lose positions. So that is something to keep in mind, that, you know, again, it's gonna be choices, so, but those people can make those choices too, because licensing is a factor in there too, so.
So are there any other positions in school that do not directly deal with kids?
I don't know who doesn't. We have, our health department helps students with sicknesses and head injuries. Our business department helps all the people with their paperwork to get through the PMFL and all those different things. And like I said, we have more people than ever coming in and out. Obviously, we have teaching positions and student support positions. Our paraprofessionals are largely driven by our IEPs. And we operate on, we get a lot of grants, and I'd like to thank all the people who do the work for that. We can spend down the general fund if you so choose, but then that's a choice this board's making. And so when the audit comes and it's negative, if you're okay with that, that's a choice you can make.
But then we'll have the same problem next year probably,
or worse. Well, and what I worry about is that usually if you always try to balance expenditures and revenue, because if you are, let me back up. So your salaries are reoccurring expenses. So unlike your building fund, where you can say, hey, this year I'm going to spend an extra $500,000, next year I'm going to not spend $500,000. The salaries, if you're going to keep the person, you have to keep paying them. So however much you went in the whole 1 year, you're going to go twice that much in the following year. So where you can adjust, and you can feel free to visit with staff that their budgets have been frozen for longer since I've been here. And so those frustrations are mounting as well, and so you have to balance different needs, and it's tough. And if you make one decision here, it has consequences over here. If you don't add to the ESL, then you have teachers with extremely large caseloads and they can't manage to do all those well. If you don't add to special education, you're probably going to lose teachers because they're frustrated. And you also risk not meeting their mandated accommodations and things like that. Do we want to lose win position? No, I'm not saying we want to. I'm just saying that if you ask me to identify a place where I think we can cut with the least amount of impact on, well, still being able to maintain the amount of staff that we have, that's what I came up with. And it does involve changes in coding, reclaiming expenses. So I mean, I didn't go on and make a big list of people, which I still hope to not be necessary.
This does not include Kelsey, she left. Kelsey's 20% reduction she was talking about, correct?
Yeah, that number is, I've yet to get it.
Right, so we could have something left to keep one of these or not.
It depends on how big that number is, but the difficulty is your activity budgets are stretched thin too. Right? Because the cost of your pads and equipment and gas, those same budgets that have been frozen really aren't paying. I'd like to thank all the community members out there that donate all this money, because if they didn't do that, and I know for our elementary, we do the color run, and the administration uses some of that color run money to allow the teachers to purchase supplies, so that gives them some more that way. No decision is in isolation.
You and Chuck would remember this. Over the years, we've come across this same situation where, oh, what are we gonna cut? And we have looked at people that might be willing to retire because they're at that time where they could retire. And we offered them a pretty good incentive.
I don't know if we can still legally do that.
So-
It's just something that I know
Yep, I know.
that we did in the past, and nobody lost their jobs, and it was good for the retiree, and it was good for the school district, so could we look into it to see if it is a legal option?
You can do that, however, what you save is dependent on who you replace the position.
And that was what it was, you found more entry level people, you know.
And sometimes we cut sections. Example,
We did do that.
we are very strong supporters of small kindergarten, small first grade.
So we have to be careful of, and it could work out that way.
Yep.
However, the applicant pools are smaller, however, there's lots of cuts around the state, so that can fluctuate. But if you pay a retirement incentive and you hire another person on the bottom right, you haven't gotten anywhere.
If you do that, I mean, you've got to hire.
It's
If you
just
have-
something that we did and it worked out for the betterment of our district. But
No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
the lower class sizes, we did that for a time, and then we promised that when we have the budget again, we would bring that back, and we did, we were true to our promise. So in my 16 years, that has happened, and I know that that is a real strain, and the dynamics are different now than they were 15 years ago, for sure. So I don't know, but I know that we had done that in the past.
But we could think about cutting a section out again. Last I heard, registration for kindergarten was 49.
Our early childhood is like full.
Well, that could be, but if we
I
have
mean,
to
it
make
is.
a cut, that could be where you could go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that saves you a teacher salary, which is 80-something thousand. So, I mean, the decision never, ever is easy, either which way we go about it.
Those are a couple of things that we've done over the years though, and they worked. And, you know, people didn't lose their jobs.
Right.
Some of their work got harder.
I think we're now, didn't the first grade teacher leave?
Yeah, we currently have a first grade opening.
So then you just not hire that, you put first grade into 3 sections instead.
Well, I'd rather just see something like that than to take the, kids that really need help in reading, that get this special. They're not gonna learn if they don't know how to read to learn, and reading is so important.
So if we cut
It's hard, period.
Yeah.
We've done this before. I mean, so, Beth, do you work one-on-one with kids? Ever?
When I'm subbing.
Well, we're gonna quit all this subbing too.
Yeah, in my position, I sub probably 2 or 3 times a week. So that's going to be a strain, because the other people that help out with that is the WIN teachers. Because we are able to fill in bits and pieces and piece it together.
So then that's pulling away from the individual reading time as well.
Right.
So the kids aren't getting what we promised them to get. Right? They aren't.
That is a current problem.
So then technically you are not a classroom kind of person, your position could disappear.
Well, you said something about teacher coach. That part of it maybe could disappear, but my job is way, way, way more than teacher coach. I'm the coordinator of the mentorship program, which according to the state of Minnesota, we have to have. So that has to go to someone. The other really, really big piece is the DAC part of it. When I first started, we had split between 2 people. I would say it was about a 70 to 75% job. So you took two people with full-time jobs and you took that and that's on the Appendix C. Since then with the READ Act, we have added fast bridge testing district-wide. So that's now grades 7 through 12 that I have to oversee. And now with the READ Act, we also have to add the CAPTI Read Basic test, which is 1 to 3 times a year that we are also testing kids as well. So that part of my job will also need to go to someone else.
See, thank you for coming, because I had no idea you did all of that.
Yeah. I
That's
do.
good, yeah.
And then also the literacy coach, which is also part of the the literacy lead. Right now Tammy and I share that. We just found out at our last monthly meeting that, so like I do all of the, it's such a big job that Tammy wants to be part of it as an administrator, so she has her, thumb on the pulse. But anytime we have new paras that come in, they have to be trained in literacy. That's something that I do. That will have to go to someone else or go back to Tammy. The other thing too, and that's also part of that CAFD testing, that will have to go to someone else. And on our local literacy plan, which we have to fill out, part of it is your literacy lead, district literacy lead. We have to account for that time if it's not a full-time person who's doing what amount. And it's gray right now. Every month we go to our those local literacy meetings, new things are added. Not a whole lot has been taken off, but new requirements are added.
They didn't add any dollars with them.
No, amazingly enough,
I don't understand.
So those are, the instructional coaching has actually become a pretty small part of it's my favorite part. I love mentoring new teachers, and that goes really hand in hand with it, but yeah, it's become a fairly small part of my job, so.
Great. Okay, so we're stuck again.
You know, we used to have work sessions where we just got together and put the ideas up, and we as a board, you know, it's just the board in a room talking about what could be cut, what shouldn't be cut, you know, and we all had our ideas, and we, you know, everybody got a chance to come up with something. We did that several times over the years too. You know that, and Chuck, you know that. I thought those were effective, and it's a way to decide some things.
But it's still basically our administrators' job to come up with this stuff.
Yeah. If you get in a hole, it will take you at least 10 years to crawl out of it, because it took us 10 years to crawl out of that debt. That was not fun. There was a lot of hard decisions for those 10 years. So I mean, we don't want to, you know, do that, spend our money down, we really can't. You know, you just don't want to be in that hole. That's a big hill to climb.
Okay, so we have a thought process here. We got Daniel's suggestions that he has talked to the administrators, he's talked to the people that would be involved.
We had our discussion, let's move on.
Okay, and Daniel is asking for a motion to do something with that.
Just for discussion tonight.
It was supposed to be, but then Daniel said he wants to give those teachers a chance to move or change or think or something.
Well, would these changes come at the end of the school year, after the school year is over? Is that when they would happen, and then they would, maybe we're in there.
For the 26-27 school year.
It would be for next school year.
I figured out there was 76 in kindergarten, so if we would drop a first grade teacher, it would be like 25 in a class. If we just went to the 3 sections, or roughly 25, give or take.
We've been very proud of that fact that we could keep those numbers small. Now, we are also very few districts that have that small numbers. So,
Last time we did it, it was K through 3, I believe. And promised that when the budget got better, we would bring it back, and we did do that.
we did.
We have a whole different dynamics though, this time around, with all the.
Didn't have nearly the ELL kids.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so I don't know that.
But if kindergarten is that small at only 48, 49, 50 kids, that old, but then we have 4 sections, that's less than 12, 13 in a section. So then,
Do you recommend that we add an elementary special education position, because right now,
they're busy.
there's a lot of,
This year, right now?
no, like for
Next fall.
first,
Next fall, okay.
I mean, it's pretty hard to find a special education teacher, so I doubt that you could even do it that quickly if you wanted to.
So there we said we could spend $80,000 more and we're trying to save us some money.
Yeah. We're here for the students.
But you can't do anything for the kids if you don't have money.
So you have to spend it wisely.
Yep.
So. And if kids can't read, they can't learn. They can't speak the language. I don't know. But you know what? Kids learn with each other, but like you said, that is subsidized or whatever. So you get the money.
But they
Our
don't.
government is
Feds
messed
and the
up.
state doesn't give us the money that it costs.
Yeah, it is that's a messed up deal.
Yep, it is, absolutely. That doesn't help us, however.
No. Can we have a work session and really brainstorm stuff, or do we just do that?
We just kind of do that.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Do you think you really need to give these teachers that opportunity, or can we do more in many?
It's only your decision, but I told you that I've been a budget cut 3 times in a row, and several times I did get to keep my job. But like this time of year, if a teacher does want to look at their options, they have options, versus if you drag it out and you pretend they have a job that they don't have, you suddenly take away their options.
Yeah.
Which, being a person who's been put in that position, I would like you to be honest with me about what it is and what choices are.
You have to look in every department and look at every department.
If we would take out the 2 WID positions, could we, like with Kelsey, once we get Kelsey's thing, could we possibly add, we could then add possibly
Well,
back to
you can
that?
add stuff back, yeah, it's like, it's easier to add.
Right. So I mean, we can kind of think that way, and depending on what her numbers are.
But if you
I
think
would-
about it, that's also taking from the high school kids.
Exactly.
Right. So I mean,
And I would-
either way you do it,
Kids
you're
as
gonna
well.
take away from somebody, somewhere.
I mean, their careers are this long, and then you're gonna cut it down even more. That really doesn't seem fair either.
None of this is fair, ever.
But there has to be something better, and if we did have time to sit down and all talk about it longer and have actual numbers and things to look at,
The data.
we might be
See where
able
our kids are
to
at.
figure something else out. Because yeah, was it thought, how many jobs are we gonna have to pass off onto other teachers if we take that position away? Do we know who all of those jobs are going to already?
They would go back to Tampa is what would happen.
So Tammy will get all of those jobs.
So part of the reason of making the decision is so you can make plans.
You gotta figure it out.
And this set of recommendations kept the number of people the same. Because when you moved them around, you generate revenue through cross subsidy.
But at the expense of.
Of the children and of the staff,
Yeah.
because like, they're not licensed to do those other things. So we
There's always the
ultimately
choice.
are going to lose those teachers.
We just hired a food director. That's a whole different budget.
Yes, it's a whole different budget.
That's a whole different thing. Okay. And we weren't gonna go into a food service right now like that.
We may still do that, but those 2 things aren't mutually exclusive.
That's okay. Okay, so, yeah. Just asking, that's all. Trying to think.
The food service budget is separate, community education budget is separate. Construction kind of has its flow through and stuff. And Fund 1 is your general fund. And then we have different buckets in that, like the ESL. Certain amount of money has to be on this, certain amount of money has to be on IEPs.
What's the cost savings of not replacing the first grade teacher or cutting one
Section.
Yeah, cutting section.
The teacher probably is 80 something probably with district bennies and
Yeah.
salary.
Would that fix this problem for at least until we have?
I recommend you get a special ed teacher for elementary, because otherwise I think there's a lot of frustration in there with the amount of people that they're servicing right now, and the amount of minutes and time they have to devote.
So you're saying you would cut first grade position in place of a spec teacher?
Either way, you need a spec teacher.
So we could at least get a spec teacher.
The thing is, when you cut a section, then you also have to understand you're increasing the class size, so that teacher has less time per child. Which is an option, but everything comes with a trade-off.
And all this, yeah, what we do.
What if we count, you know,
Okay, you guys come up with the motion, what you wanna do. We are in April, those folks deserve a chance to go out and apply for other work if they wanna go elsewhere. Maybe heads would get together and figure out, because if we swapped WIN for sped, doesn't mean that's the same body. There would be a job for those WIN teachers someplace else. I mean, it's not, you know what I'm trying to say, it's.
Right. It's not this person going to this
Right.
position.
Right, it's just juggling the positions around.
Yeah.
So, I know I've been there too, it's not nice to be 1st of June, you must have been there too, and don't have a job and just get told, and so maybe we tell them now and.
Well, you said you've already spoken to them that this is a possibility, correct?
Yep.
So I told them I was recommending it, because you don't want to turn on the TV and watch and find out that.
So, I mean, they already have a heads up, so they could potentially be looking for a job. So if we wait on doing this, they still know it's a potential thing that we could be doing.
But they won't take you seriously.
Oh, you take people serious.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't take us seriously. That's what
I'm saying the teachers that you spoke to, they would take that serious, and if they wanted to look for a different job or decide if they wanted to go a variance route or that, they would do that. In the meantime, we could still be looking for better options. That's my thought.
I would agree with that, because I think if we just say, yep, go and do it, it's a haste of a decision that I think impacts more than what we want. It just has such a strong impact on the students, in my mind, so, much less the staff that is going to be. But majority rules, so.
Right.
We said our piece.
How long do you wanna sit here and talk about it? Or put a motion on the table or come up with something?
What if we said we can get behind some of these things and made a motion for the things that we are behind?
Well, I guess I can start that process and anybody can chime in if they wish. I think we can allow the Dean of Students to sunset. transition the Chromebook responsibilities to the technology department, combining of the National Honor Society and Student Council into activities role, which expands that to include the student leadership is my.
Yeah, just shortening the title.
And potentially we adjust class sizes and reduce a teacher in the elementary. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be the first grade that we cut a section out of.
I say, we would definitely have to look at numbers and make it make sense. We do not want higher class. I mean, kids are hard. And if nobody's been in a classroom before, go sit in a classroom. Kids are hard.
Especially first graders.
I understand that.
Kids are hard.
We don't necessarily have to cut the first grade position,
Right.
we can cut a kindergarten position with a lower number coming in.
Do we know for sure that those are the numbers though?
That's the thing.
Right, no.
Because over the course of the summer, 30 more kids will come bouncing in the door.
I'm already getting
And
more paperwork
September
from
20th,
parents
they will
every
still
day
be rolling in.
with enrollments.
And November.
My numbers, the elementary have been pretty steady.
Because what was the number for for kindergarten this year, 79?
76.
76.
And Karen said that typically the last few years, it's been 40-some that show up for registration, but that doesn't mean that's what we're gonna have in the classroom.
Every year.
Yeah.
At this time it's 47, it jumps up.
Well, the first part of my recommendation is my motion.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Tom wants, our motion would be the Dean of Students would sunset. Chromebooks would go to the tech department. Student Council and the Honor Society would go to the AD person with student leadership. And further discussion to come forward.
And I think these people need to be on notice that this decision will be made in May and they may be cutting me.
The rest of this stuff.
Yeah, maybe in.
Before we do any of that, I'd like to have a work session to really sit and discuss and know the numbers and how it's gonna affect things. And what income are we going to generate by moving this and that? And I mean, we know some of it, but we don't know all of it and who it's impacting because that's important to know who for sure it's impacting. And especially when it's the students. That's
fine.
yeah. So you wanna do that? Make a motion to accept those and then add a work session in to figure out the list.
We can schedule a work session at a later time. I think I'm gonna leave my motion as I stated it.
We've got a motion.
I'll second your motion.
Back in the first meeting of the year, we gave Daniel authorization or the power to basically balance our budget and to look for ways to do that and to cut and do what's necessary. He's done that. He's doing that. So, I guess that's what we hired him to do. One of the things we hired him.
Well, there was just a motion and a second.
We're in the discussion phase.
Okay.
So are you coming up with another motion then, Chuck, or?
No, I'm just putting that out there.
You can split up the recommendations across two motions, and so desire. Or one that there's agreement. The next one, if that's the way you want to take that.
So we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
You second.
Lisa? Okay. Any more discussion? Other than I agree with Chuck, Daniel came up with just what we told him to do. And that is the responsibility of the administration to come to us with what they think is going to work best for us.
But ultimately, the vote ends with us.
Right. And it's our job to look out for the kids, not we have to look out for everybody and everything, so.
Okay, any more discussion, one last time? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will sunset the dean, Chromebooks go to the tech department and student council, and honor society goes to the AD position. And come back, if we come up with a work night, come back with some ideas what to do.
Was a special ed position being tabled? That was within those recommendations.
And that special ed position is to ensure that we don't have overload paying employee satisfaction.
I think we already have, they all have overloads at the elementary, don't they?
There's several, and we're working on more official language in the contract because, I mean, if you put 40 kindergartners in a classroom, that's pretty obviously too much. We have more students to staff ratio in special ed than most people in freshwater right now.
Before we do that, could we get numbers and savings? I mean, it's really hard for me to make decisions on things when I don't have any information other than, well, this is my recommendation.
You have the numbers in the email. Value of a teaching position.
I mean, like how many kids do we have? How many do each of the staff members have on their caseload? All of those things. What, and adding someone, what is that going to do for the money?
I think if you're pushing for kids, special ed is well overloaded, high school and elementary.
That's what I would like to see, Linda. That's what I'm asking. The numbers.
You don't know that from getting talked about all these months?
I don't know the exact numbers because I'm just told they're overloaded. I would like to see the numbers.
And if a teacher we want to advertise to hire a teacher, and you want to get a teacher in, you need to do that before the 1st of July.
You go ahead and make that motion. I'm just saying I would like to see the numbers. And I don't think that's asking too much. To actually be informed, to make a vote.
All right, folks, you gotta speak up.
We've actually discussed at our workshop. And then we would have numbers and all the things before us. I'm sure we'll do that before the May meeting. We should at least.
I'm looking at the calendar.
You have to provide the questions of what numbers you want.
A load of each.
I understand, but I assume there'll be other ones you want.
So you go home and think about it and email Daniel what questions you want him to answer. And he and Sherry will come up with all the dollars that it takes to do a sped teacher.
Lisa, I'm looking on Minnesota report card. Do you want the numbers per February this year per building for special ed? Sure. Okay, give me just a moment. I did by district, so I will do by elementary first. And again, this is all MDE report card for valid by February, I believe, this year. According to MDE, special education at the elementary building is 141 students. Okay?
Okay.
Give me a moment to take that in a second here. I like technology. At the high school, there's 86.
And how many teachers at the elementary?
It's 5 full-times, but some of those numbers are just 5 full-times.
And then 5, and then
Yes, because some of those numbers will be speech only. So
Oh.
6 with speech teacher.
Okay, so
But I think also you have to.
and then high school, how
Crank that
many?
caseload too. I mean, the kind of.
Sorry, it's okay. How many high school special ed teachers?
And then speech teacher and Samardi does.
The speech only, or the speech?
Yep. And then there's
6 at the high school also?
Yeah.
Is that helpful?
So we have 6 at the high school for 86, and then 6 at the elementary for 141.
I believe, according to this, yes.
Schneiders. So that's interesting.
That's why he's saying we need a sped
Right.
teacher over here.
So we move high school one over to the elementary?
No. That's what it was just an idea, right?
There's your numbers.
Just looking at numbers?
No.
Sorry, it's
There's
first grade.
That's very real, yeah.
I don't know what's happening over there.
That was a little sweet.
This is Rosenhaus filling a kindergarten position of a different kindergarten teacher.
Yeah, when you're
So that special ed position will be filled, first grade position. And I'm suggesting adding new.
Look at it as a screen, so I can like.
So special ed, like, there's 2 different numbers, there's caseload and service. Because a student, no, the workload associated with each student is not necessarily the same.
Correct. I understand.
So,
I understand
this is
that.
just what I have like handy. I have something with the fresh water that shows our numbers
Screen just went
per.
off.
Mitchell's trying to fix it.
Oh. Can you email that to us right now?
Yeah.
Okay, the other thoughts are gonna be what night in May do you think it's open?
Oh, sorry.
Monday the 4th.
Monday is a band concert
Band
next week,
concert.
and the week after, I wanna
Choir
say.
concert.
They're 2 weeks apart.
Right?
April 27th and then May. What time?
That's the band concerts, and then the
And then
choir
the choir
concert
is
is after that.
What time do they start?
7.
So so there'd be nothing on May 4th then?
I'll double check it, but I'm pretty sure it's May 11th. What, the choir concert?
You said May
I've got it on
4th.
my calendar.
Choir concert is the 11th of May, I have it.
Okay, yep.
And the band concert for the high school is the 4th, not the junior high or 5-8.
Okay.
So the 9-12.
Oh, 6 to 8 choir is the 18th. So it is 4 Mondays in a row. It's like junior high, then high school, junior high.
So pick a night. It's hard. Wednesday, the 6th is
That's
the
the Junior
Educators of
Softball?
Excellence Banquet in Brainerd, so that's probably out. Color Run is the 8th, Friday night.
Could we start about 5:15 and be done by?
That's kind of up to you
I won't be able to be
guys.
here until 5:30. I mean, I have a 20-minute drive.
Tom is working crazy hours now too.
Yeah. I was thinking Thursday, May 7th. I'd actually like to start later.
I can do May 7th.
Okay.
I have an ACC meeting on May 7th in Swanville.
I can do May 7th.
What time is your meeting, Linda?
6:30.
What time you want to get together?
I was thinking
You said
7th.
later, not that late.
I was thinking 7th.
Those are our average caseloads, and those are what you would expect from the other schools.
And Vanessa Wheelenberg said the
No, I
numbers
got
on
plans, my
NPE
brothers
are
can eat.
not just
I don't eat
She
until,
She said,
I don't eat until my day's 3/4.
yeah, she said Erica, Emma, Steve, and I are over 25 and she's at 24, and that's not including Jess Rosen's kids. So it's, I mean, there's a few that are speech, but I was kind of like the speech teacher here with the sped teachers, but of the 5 main sped teachers, yes, they have very big.
Did you refresh?
Was there anything on the 5th that would be our other option, because we don't wanna really push it to the week right before the board meeting?
I can do May 5th too.
I can do that. There's no Little League games or anything?
We're doing softball this year, but
Okay.
my daughter decided not to play baseball.
What day are we looking at now?
May 5th. May 5th?
At what
If you
time?
think it's a waste of time, don't come.
I won't.
I mean,
At what time are we
it's not
talking?
effective
Don't know.
reasoning.
Tom?
I could probably make 6:30 work.
Let me bring in the pizza.
May 5th, 6:30.
If you send me questions before a board meeting, you can always find the information a little bit ahead of time.
At 6:30?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't vote or anything, we just discuss and try to figure it out, put everything on the board and figure it out.
And you understand that work sessions are open meetings as well, right?
Yes.
And it has to be posted and stuff.
So if somebody wants to come and observe it, they're allowed. Just making sure everybody understands.
Doesn't mean the floor is open for them, it just means they can be here to listen.
Right, that's correct.
Correct.
Okay, we are not done then. Long-term contract and approvals.
The only one I have is, nurse, yeah.
I move to approve the contract that was presented to us this evening.
I'll second it.
Jeremiah.
Steve has to type.
The works.
Motion to accept
I got the
LPN.
nurse, yeah, I heard that. I got yours. I can hear it.
LPN contract. Did you get the, yeah, it was Tom and Jeremiah. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I think the solar project grant we did was the online one to do.
Yeah, but there's an online thing, so, what this involves is, asking to create an online teacher position, authorize staff to get a vendor for offering online instruction,
And so what that would do is that we'd open up, basically, like we have an elementary, a high school site, we'd have an online site. And then, we probably have to make more decisions down the road, but then, the administrative team can keep working on the steps. And the intention would be to offer online instruction as an option. If you read your board book, you know that we lost about 30 students in our high school just this year since January. And so the objective would be to retain students. Yes?
Those 30 went online somewhere else?
No, I didn't. Some of them went online, some of them went to ALC. But I would say it was like, if you look at the ALC program, when it went to online, it started at like 10 and right now it's at about 40. And if you talk to the neighboring school districts, and you know, Brad has and a few other people, this trend of more students going online is statewide. And I just think it would be smart of us to get ahead of it rather than behind it. And that's your choice, but if you don't want to go down this route, then you know we quit spending time on it.
So if we approve this tonight, it would be just to keep looking at this, not necessarily to start advertising for a teacher at this point, is that correct?
I think if you want to seriously start in the fall, that you need to get a teacher in a vendor.
So we can't afford a WIN teacher, but we can afford an online teacher.
If you add 10 students at the high school level, that's $120,000.
For some standard education.
So how can?
Say that, Tanya.
It is.
How do we prove that kids online are doing their work? That they are doing their work?
Well, that's part of the reason you get a vendor. We've been in dialogue. We visited with a teacher who currently offers online instruction. We're planning a site visit to schools that have it. They have like different security measures and you proctor tests and different procedures. By getting like I would like to get somebody who's experienced, who already is doing it successfully, and model it off what they're doing to have the requirements and what we offer so that the quality of instruction is there. Brad, did you chip in some of the stuff you've been learning?
Just that we've lost, right now, there's 13 of our kids that are online. They went to LC and they chose to go online. So there's 13 LPG students that are online right now, which equates to approximately $130,000 if you look at it that way. Now, I can't say that that's gonna happen ever, but we are losing a lot of money because that money now goes to freshwater, it does not go directly to us. So that's part of it. I have talked to, the district I've been talking to is, I talked to Wilmer, which is very similar. Because we wanted to get someone, we wanted to talk to people, if we're gonna do this, we want to talk to someone that has kids that we do. They have, their program has grown the whole entire time. They have over 50 kids that go there, which generates between all the stuff, it generates between $500,000 to $600,000. And they're running that program with 2 teachers and 2 parents, which costs them far less than that. So that's what it is. Their suggestions for us is to make sure you have a vendor that's qualified and certified to the state of Minnesota.
That's that question.
Yeah, there's really 2 big ones that do that. And I think the 2 are, it's called Edgenuity and Mentum. So some of those people that you had a question about all that stuff, they check in daily with their person. And then they actually, the program actually generates exactly how many minutes they've stayed on the program that day, how many modules they've completed within a week. All those things are things that are part of it. If you talk to the kids that are online, the reason they chose to go online is because they don't feel like, they feel like the education that they have at school doesn't fit them very well. A big part of that is some of them are doing, there's a couple of them that are working outside the house because they can support themselves. There are some that took the online classes so that they could accelerate their a program towards like, extra, for like extra stuff where, if they need a class to get to, for instance, when she talked to us, person talked to us, she said that, they needed an extra class in order to get into another class. So when you look at college, they have that background that was offered in some places, so there's kids that are doing that, but it serves a bunch of different kids. It's if you talk to anybody around the state, it's not growing, it's growing exponentially. There's a district right now, that has 345 kids online, and 145 of them are in their district, the other 200 are from other places. Which generates $2 million for their district. So,
You know, I worry about, we already have a huge mental health crisis in our country and probably around the world for sure. And then we're gonna, say, well, you're worth that much money, go do it. It bothers, listen, they need to be social in those years, not
Yeah,
isolated.
I'm not
Whether they think
advocating,
it's right or not, we're the adults to help them make these decisions. Didn't we do that addendum or whatever we did
We do
before?
Admentum during for credit recovery. Now, there's Edgenuity, there's a couple of big ones. Edgenuity seems to be the best one. I just got back from my association meeting last week, and I had that discussion with the other principals. It is, and Brad's alluded to that already, as stated, such, it is very common now to recapture those students. Now, there's a couple of reasons for it. Brad mentioned that, recapture students. And to be honest with you, things are changing, the technology's changing so quickly with AI and that. I mean, it's not, even from what I see at Edmentum's changed in the last 2 years. It's getting better than what it was. I mean, you put the same things in place. So you have those catches in there to address those issues. We're just gathering information right now, but there's a lot of promise with that. There's a lot of positive with it. I'm not advocating for or against it. I'm just saying from what I'm seeing, now a lot of districts are doing, because I had that conversation with quite a few principals. They're all, yep, got that, we're doing that, or we're working with them. And
That's what they're looking
a lot of kids don't, but you know what, you look at the kids though, that are coming through school. They are not the kids we had 40 years ago. They are wired completely different than what we're seeing. I mean, the kids are starting to have devices at a much younger age. We're seeing that, so they're tuned differently than what, I know, because I'm thinking back to the way things were. It wouldn't fit for me. But for some kids, it's gonna be a good fit. Some kids won't, and some kids are gonna wanna be here. Some kids, so what you're doing is kind of broadening your horizon zone. It's like, hey, we've got opportunities. That's the way I look at it. So now it's just like that.
Can I just interject something too? When we met with this teacher, I was under the assumption, oh, you just assign these classes, you watch the videos, you do the work, and you don't talk to anybody. No, the teacher actually makes a personal relationship and meets with them weekly or daily and actually helps them through the assignments remotely, through video. So they are actually interacting with people.
So do they fail if they don't show up?
Yes, big time.
So
And
what
there's, and they have to, if they don't do enough stuff, they truancy, immediately it's sent. And yes, they will get into major trouble. And they also have very good relationships with parents, because the parents are the ones that are pushing the students to do it, to make sure they get their stuff done. I was shocked, because I had no clue how it worked, and I was thinking the same thing. They're just gonna sit by the computer and not see anybody. No, they're even interacting with the other students in the classes to do study videos, and it's all remote.
So I think if we get ahead of it, we can define those rules of
Right.
like, the student needs to come in and get their tests here, whatever things, like I'd like to pick this teacher's brain about like what are the things they're doing to maintain those connections with families, with students. And instead of responding to other districts offering this after we've lost enrollment, like choosing how we want it to look. We were looking at 9 through 12 because of that social emotional element, because We want those kids in school as much as we can, as long as we can, but a lot of those 9 through 12s, you have your college classes moving online. I was at the state legislature, and some superintendents were talking about like, hey, like, college is changing, not college, high school, and they're just seeing more and more people take these options. And what I worry about is that if we don't offer something that's good quality, they'll simply find a program somewhere else because that's what they're looking for. And you've talked about creative ways to try to maintain staffing, and one of those ways is to get students in the door. And so, I mean, it's ultimately your decision, but there's only so many things a school district can do to generate revenue.
So would they be part of the Long Prairie School District yet still graduate with them, unlike the other online programs that do their graduation
Yeah, it'd be
other
different
places?
It'd be different than the ALC, and obviously we'd have some say in that.
Right, cause I know like what Minnesota Connections Academy, whoever if
It's
you
a good example.
go through that, you graduate with thousands of other people down wherever they have graduation in cities. But they would graduate here, right? They would be part of our school district yet.
Yeah, and, you know, we compete with our neighboring districts quite a bit. In a few years, we will have that high school rule come down the pipes, as I put in my messages, where you can only compete in the district where you're enrolled. And, you know, if we gave a few students from Little Falls or Sauk Center or Osakis because we offer a program, I think if we waited until everybody else had it, then we're already too late to the game, and we're probably not gonna get those students back because they've already found a program they enjoy.
This year, our ALC classes for the kids that are online in ALC are graduating from the ALC. We have 4 Osakis kids, a Bertha student, and there's one other student that have come to their online school, and out of those 5, 3 of them want to graduate with our diploma, and they have a choice to graduate with the diploma that is their school district that they live in, or a school district that the parent lives in, or the school district that we're in. And so they have that choice to graduate from whichever place that they choose while we're in the ALC. I don't know how that would work on the online, but we also have some online kids that have gone online and decided that that wasn't for them and decided to come back. This would give us the opportunity that then it would still be within our district.
Yeah, and the other thing we could do is set minimum requirements to do it. Like, you need to have such a GPA or whatever we thought was constructed, like, versus just kind of wide open.
Well, see, we don't get money for that student. So, I mean.
Well, we do, Tanya. What happens is all that money goes back to freshwater, and then we get 1/9 of that money.
Oh.
So this would be a way to keep all of the money, if you can keep those kids. I mean, so you, instead of keeping 1/9 of that money, you'd be keeping 9/9.
So, but it wouldn't be called ALC then?
No, this would be,
That's all I'm
this would
saying
be,
is.
no, this would be, it would be called probably Long Prairie Grading Online or Thunder Online or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And there still would be an ALC out there, because kids would still have that choice.
The other thing that Kelsey had said to me is that there's a new rule coming out about the sports. You already talked about that? Yeah.
And just, I've got just one more question and then I'm ready to make a motion, but what happens if we don't get the 10 students for whatever reason?
Well, you can cut it, but based on all these online programs that I'm seeing, and I'm doing some background work where I feel like with setting it up to be a fairly good chance of attracting some students. At least pretty optimistic. Obviously, you can't count your eggs before they're hatched, but you miss every ball you don't swing at too. So.
I would say as someone who talks to a lot of middle schoolers and early high schoolers, a lot of them very much find the appeal of online school. One of their big hesitations that we've talked about, like in small groups and things, is well, I have to find somewhere that will give me the quality education. A lot of these are students that they want the quality education, they're like, well, I can go on Google and type in online school and 300 pop up. And they're nervous that if they choose the wrong option that's not accredited the right way or isn't a good fit, they're now out. It's harder to come back to public school in person or try to go to another. And they're kids that some don't like school, some have huge aspirations and they wanna keep flying through. But they're very hesitant because they are looking. But they don't necessarily know how to discern what's quality and what's not, what will keep them so they can play sports, what will keep them connected with their friends, and all of those social pieces as well. A lot more students that I realize are looking, or families are looking, but they don't know how to weed out what's quality and what's not quality, and what's free and what's not really free, and what's gonna get them where they wanna get to. I think there's a lot of people looking, more than we probably realize.
Could we put out a survey to parents and see like how many would be interested in their child doing that?
You can get whatever directive you want.
But I think if we wanted on board for the fall, we should give them the okay to go ahead.
I move we proceed with this.
I'd second that motion. I think it's a good idea. I think we want to be trailblazers in this and not trying to follow up.
Yep, progressive.
Yeah. Like this way, we get to set our terms, we get to set what we want to see it, and that we're not gonna, be following up on other school districts. I think it's also a good way to potentially draw in homeschool families.
Yeah, and I think if this passes, that we would probably as administration come back each month with this is where we're at, this is where we're at, and there'll be more decision points.
I mean, I think you're probably gonna have because I agree that you're gonna probably have students that are more interested in this than versus the traditional. And I think if you look at college right now, how colleges have just really expanded online to almost pretty much everything now.
Well, and you could also have a situation where somebody goes to physical school in the morning and then in the afternoon they do online, so they take a work shift like a lot of our kids are already doing, and then they finish their classes in the evening. Like, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be all
These
one
wouldn't be
together.
self-paced, they would be, you have to be
Yep.
in a class at a certain time for a certain time, right?
There's different ways to set it up.
Okay.
And, yeah, it's not based on seat time, and I guess credits aren't based on seat time, I learned that today. But yeah, there's a lot of information we still have to collect. But,
And if we cut a different position, that's not, say, that person can be the online teacher then, too.
and if it expands, that might provide funding for other positions, we don't have to cut them.
Right.
Well, if it expands, we might not need other positions because there won't be kids in the building.
If they're coming to our program though.
I think we need to meet families where they're at though. And this offers that.
If they can be in extracurricular activities, I would feel better about that.
They can be.
They can be if they're online at our school.
They're still one of our kids.
Yeah.
They
I
may
feel
have
better
to-
about that than just
They may have
sitting
to
here,
drive
take your little thing and go sit in your basement.
Just the one that's.
I think we wanna make it look how we wanna make it look. You have to decide that you wanna start first.
Okay, folks, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on it? Motion and a second.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, and I don't think it provides quality education, but we have to offer it. And everybody else says we're losing students to it right now.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Roll call vote. Chuck. Tom.
Aye.
Jeremiah.
Aye.
Lisa.
No.
Lori.
Yes.
Tanya.
I'm gonna abstain. for personal reasons.
Linda, aye. Motion carries. 5-2. 5 after 9.